Hello, good evening, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an all-new season of the sim racing magazine GT4 Challenge, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. This series, powered by none other than Oris Digital, is the series that asks the question, year in, year out, who is the master or mistress of the GT4 class racing machine? The road car turned racer, indeed 80% road car, 20% race car, and the perfect mixture for drivers both very well acquainted with race cars all the way through to rookies to get themselves out on track and enjoying the racing action. We are back for an all-new season then. It is Season 8. Hot at the heels of Season 7, which ended on an absolutely terrific high. Well, we have made our way all the way around the globe previously, and we're about to do it again today. We begin the journey of the season here at Imola in Italy, a circuit once previously known as a high-speed, high-thrills, high-risk, high-reward circuit. Over time, due to safety, it has been gradually slowed down. A circuit that's been gradually brought down to a much more technical circuit, where it's all about short straights, heavy braking zones, plenty of chicanes and sweeping bends, and the hairpin or two. And come the end of it all, our drivers here will need to know they've got to be through and through with regards to their braking zones and ability to go battling, because of course at this circuit, when it is stop-start racing, it's a short charge to the next braking zone, and there's no time to really build up a slipstream. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this live broadcast from Circuit Side as you tune in tonight to the one and only place you can catch all the racing action throughout the entire season of racing in Season 8 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. That is, of course, and none other on YouTube at youtube.com, and search for Paul Walsh Productions or PWP, and you'll be catching all the racing there as it unfolds. And indeed, we welcome you to these broadcasts, ladies and gentlemen, and Season 7 ended on such a thrilling conclusion, of course, with what was your champion in the form of none other than Stuart Reynolds taking that championship crown after an incredible battle all season long with Alex Gall. And we're very pleased to say that Stuart Reynolds is back once again as of today trying to defend his title, albeit Alex Gall is not, but we've got plenty of fresh faces on the grid, as well as regular rookies and newcomers and veterans, and indeed everyone will be absolutely looking to get right into the mix from the outset. We also do have the return, of course, of our AM Championship, which proved very, very popular on its introduction in Season 7, and well, our driver's AM Champion, John Bailiff, not back this season, but even if he was, he'd be promoted to pro. What it does mean is we will be seeing a new AM champion come the end of the season. And of course, we do have the return on the grid, our teams champions as well, none other than Satellite Racing, and they'll be looking to try and defend their title. And we've got plenty of fresh face teams as well as some old favourites, all looking to go for gold. In terms of our schedule for today then, as we get things underway, well, times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinated Time, UTC, as we can see in approximately will be 13 minutes time. We'll be making our way out into our first qualifying session of the season. 15 minutes in duration, all drivers out there looking to go for pole position, after which we'll be taking a 5-minute breather before we do head to the grid for the first of our 60-minute feature races, which all around 60-minute races, but indeed it'll be the first one to get us underway, and what it round it's going to be today. In the content booth, myself, my name is Paul Walsh, and I'll be bringing you all your racing action as it unfolds and covering it all from time and time again. And indeed, what a season it was last time out, but we can't dwell on the past. We need to look into the future and into the present, and let's give you a quick update then on exactly what you can expect over the course of this season, starting of course with the calendar. And as we can see, here is our calendar for Season 8. A mixture of circuits around the world. We have several visits to the US of A and 2 to Germany, but otherwise we've got plenty of fresh venues. We begin here today, of course, at the Autodromo International Enzo E. Dino Ferrari, as it's known in full, all the rounds occurring every 2 weeks. In round number 2, we're making our way to the US of A for a Long Beach Street Circuit, and there we'll see our drivers have to tackle what is a very narrow circuit, one that offers up plenty of battling action, and it's no wonder why it's featured on the likes of the IMSA Sports Car Championship on an annual basis. Then on the 31st of March, we make our way further into the US of A, heading all the way from the West Coast in towards Central America for the Virginia International Raceway, and then the lush greenery of the Lazarus of Motorsport in the US of A, we see our drivers take on a circuit that is absolutely unrelenting in its elevation changes and also the tightness of the track, and indeed some would argue that Virginia International Raceway is a street circuit but in a woodland. But then from the 31st of March, you'll be into April we go for round number 4, and there we really will be at a street circuit once again, because we'll see our drivers go down under to Australia for the Mount Panorama circuit. Indeed, it will be a very close-knit one in the Central Tablelands, while drivers will need to make sure they stay clear of the walls and make their overtakes on the straights, because the mountain of Mount Panorama, for nobody, time awaits. Then in round number 5, we'll head to Germany for the Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg. The Grand Prix circuit, a highly technical test of ability, as designed by Hermann Tilke, will welcome drivers on the 28th of April, and then we head into May with a newcomer to the series, the Thruxton circuit. That's right, we're going to be taking on the fastest circuit in the United Kingdom on the 12th 12th of May, and the British circuit they're absolutely loved for its ability to deliver high-speed, high-thrills racing action, and it will be short-lived with only 60 minutes of racing there. We'll probably be wanting even more of it before we then make our way back to Germany, and yes, you are reading that correctly. Our drivers on the 26th of May will be taking on the Nürburgring Combined or the Nürburgring Gesamtstrecke. And the circuit that brings together both the Grand Prix Loud and also the infamous Nordschleife, and there we will be having a 60-minute special whereby the setups of the cars will be slightly tweaked in order to open up more strategic options, and it really will be around about survival. But then we go into June, and in June we conclude the season on the 9th of June at the Road America circuit in the picturesque countryside of the US state of Wisconsin. It will be closing to the roar of a sound of 6 cylinders and 8 cylinders as our drivers charge away around Road America for the final time of the season. But that is our calendar then. 8 rounds. Much like the template we've previously seen, 8 rounds of 60 minutes of racing action apiece. There's no variance with regards to the length of the races, and we do of course have our qualifying sessions to go before them. Indeed, we've made sure to take with the advice which we've all heard, which of course is if it's not broken, don't fix it, and therefore we haven't tried to fix anything. We've just made this calendar absolutely enticing and exciting for drivers and fans alike, and hopefully it's bringing a smile to your face already when you do see this calendar. But if so, what exactly are drivers competing for over the course of this season? Well, you may remember the medals from Season 7. They are back once again, albeit here's an example of the medals that we did give away over the course of the racing for Season 7, and we're going to have equivalents for Season 8. Now, there will be 4 medals on each round. Firstly, there'll be a medal for the winner overall of the race, then we'll be giving a medal to the winner of the AM class in the race, and we'll also be providing medals to the overtake on the move of the round as nominated by our drivers. They'll be submitting their entries, and then we will see the Sim Racing Magazine admin team essentially pick the winner of that, and we'll be giving you an update in the subsequent round as to which one was the winner of the move of the round. And also we will be seeing a medal for the cleanest driver, and remember, the cleanest driver is the driver with the lowest number of instant points, and should we have multiple drivers with the same number of low instant points, we then do it based on the highest finisher out of those with the lowest instant points. So if 2 have got 0 but 1 driver's the winner of the race and 1 was second, it would be the winner of the race who brings home the cleanest driver award. So 32 medals up for grabs over the course of our 8 rounds of racing action. But as we get ready to go racing then, well, let's introduce our circuit for today. It is, of course, the Autodromo International Enzo E. Dino Ferrari's Grand Prix Loud, located near the city of Imola in the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy. Well, this circuit, as we do say, a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just their brilliant simulator, but the absolutely fantastic track maps contained within it, is a circuit like no other when it comes to the mixture of stop-start style of racing. As our drivers roar the way down the start-finish straight, heading down towards the Tamburello chicane, introduced, of course, after the unfortunate day, all those many years ago in 1994, which did see the passing of both Roland Ratzenberger and Ayrton Senna in a single Grand Prix weekend, where it was Ratzenberger who passed away on the Saturday, of course, and Senna in the infamous moment going straight on at Tamburello, while drivers they'll be negotiating the median speed chicane. As they exit through turns 2, 3 and 4, they'll then sprint their way down towards Villeneuve at turns 5 and 6, while they head all the way through that chicane and up towards the Tosa hairpin at turn number 7. And they'll be hard on the brakes for low speed corner, trying to abuse the camber of the road as they come out and then roar their way over the crest. But then while the highest points of the circuit, they'll come through the off-camber left-hander of Pinatella, and coming out of there down in towards Acqua Minerale, they'll face the test out trying to balance the way to their cars. Hard on the brakes, they'll go through turn number 9, but even harder they'll go onto the brakes into turn number 10, and as they make the way uphill out of 10, if they survived it right, they'll then come all the way towards Variante Alta, or the Alta chicane at turns 11 and 12. Right into left will be key. It'll be the lowest speed chicane on the circuit, and it's all the way downhill for the kink of 13 and in towards the heavy braking zone of Ravazza at turns 14 and 15. Through left into right there. As they come out of that corner, it'll then be through what will be the start-finish straight kinks, in reference, of course, to the MotoGP circuit at turn number 16, where there would be a chicane. But we're not running a chicane there. We're going straight on, and it'll be onwards to another lap, time and time again, until we finally do see that finish line. But as a reminder of the rules before we go racing, because we can't go racing without them, what exactly has changed, rule-wise? And the answer is nothing has changed for this season. We are sticking with the same rule set as the previous season, where drivers are running a fixed setup with fuel loads restricted to 37%. This is the default iRacing fixed setup, and indeed those fuel loads may be adjusted if needed according to the administration team, and we can expect at the Nürburgring Combined we will see those fuel loads adjusted to accommodate the endurance racing there. Qualifying will be an open qualifying format, which does mean all drivers are out on circuit together looking to try and deliver as best as they possibly can. And as they roar the way around the circuit, understandably, it's going to be about picking up the draft as much it is going to be about smart on your own lap. When we do go racing, the race shall commence by a double throttle rolling start, as is the tradition of GT4 racing, after which we will see our drivers simply have to manage the strategies of their own. Of course, there are no mandatory pit stop requirements, albeit we do expect that our drivers will need to come into the pits at some point for fuel, but changing tyres is entirely optional. But if they think they can no-stop the race, then they're more than welcome to try. Normally the theme, of course, has been a two-stop race procedure. Well, of course, we saw at Oschersleben last season the fact that some drivers opted to gamble with the one stop, and those who did actually picked up a lot of time. Now, each driver has one fast repair available should they need to use it at any point during the racing, and a driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 18 or more instant points. Should they manage to get to 25, they will be disqualified from the race round. All race stewarding, meanwhile, with regards to incidents between drivers, shall be conducted post-race. But without further ado, that's enough rules, regulation, everything between. We're all here for the racing, so let's make our way back to circuit side and let's see who is out there today looking to go for gold as they all head on around in this final practice warm-up session. Indeed, we've got quite a few drivers out there, as we do see none other than Matthias Pentelar, and he comes on through and down towards turns 14 and 15 he'll go, but as he does that in the Ford Mustang, currently looking to be the fastest driver out there by the best part of 4.5 seconds in terms of, well, not 4.5 seconds there, my mind's going elsewhere, indeed by the best part there of 11 thousandths, and indeed right now with 4.5 minutes left on the clock, well, Matthias Pentelar 9 has a bit more work to be done, particularly if he wants to guarantee that pole position. But of course he returns to the grid as one of our staple drivers in all the batting over the previous season. He really was the third wheel inside the lead championship battle to Stuart Reynolds and Alex Gall, as meanwhile we do welcome to the grid from Fury Simsport, new to grid for this season, albeit with the team that definitely was one of the big competitors at the front of the field last time out. Here is Daniel Osler, and we're very happy to see him out there and running in the Porsche Cayman 718 GT4. We also do have his teammate there, and indeed a special livery on the car here for Stuart Reynolds, the reigning champion. And well, if you look very closely at this livery, what you'll notice is in amongst all the silver, and I do believe across the paintwork as a whole, there are imprints of circuit maps, all the circuits we raced at in Season 7, in reference, therefore, to the fact this is a special livery commemorating his championship crown last season. And Stuart Reynolds, well, he takes the number 1 on his car because he is that defending champion. It is his right, and we're very happy to see him executing his right there, and we are very eager to see what he can do. He's back in his trusty Mercedes AMG as well, so no change of car for him, and he does seem to be very set with the staple that he has. We also do have here Ben Idris Abdullahi back once again for Satellite Racing, one of the two of himself and Niels Core, who of course took the team's championship last time out, and they're in the lovely 269 Mercedes AMG. We look forward to seeing whether he can defend that crown and perhaps even push forward in the overall Drivers' Championship. Daniel Perry, new to grid here, also part of the Fury Simsport team. Fury Simsport are here in full force for this season. I think it's their hope that they might be able to find a way to perhaps dethrone Satellite Racing and make it their championship if they can. Also in a Porsche 718 GT4 Cayman as he comes under the bridge. As he does so, well, here's Niels Core, meanwhile the other member of that Satellite Racing team, back once again. It wouldn't be quite a grid without Niels, to be fair, and indeed a very quick driver at that, and he's in his Ford Mustang GT4 once more, and very good to see him out there in that machinery. Indeed, it does seem as though Satellite Racing opting to go with V8, albeit Niels decided to go with an American V8. Meanwhile, Idris Abdullahi decided to go with the German one. Guy Edwards, he's back on the grid once again, although a change of car for this season, deciding to go to the McLaren 570S GT4. Now, Alex Gall, of course, demonstrated last season the fact that McLaren a very capable car. It's got speed in the corners, it's got speed on the straights, and indeed it's quite quick in the pit lane as well. It's quite good on fuel. So what's the weakness of the car? Well, there you see the weakness. It is a car that's quite prone to oversteer on the rear end, given its mid-engine rear-wheel drive, and does have quite a light rear end to it as he tries to get the car turned around, and also it does have quite tight gearing in the lower ranges, so therefore you've got to be smart with your gear selection if you want to get the best out of the car as he gets it turned around. Well done to Guy for that, and he's given us a demonstration there as why the McLaren can be a bit of a picky customer. Chris Jennings, he's in the pit lane there. He's back on the grid once again for Axis Simsport in the number 22. Good to see him there in the Ford Mustang, hitting the slight there by what is the start line finish box, and indeed hidden a bit more there as we do see him parked up there with his hazard lights on, and I think he knows he's on camera right now. And welcome to the grid once again for Chris. We look forward to seeing what he can do. Mark Johnson, currently the fastest of your AM drivers. And how do you know the AMs from the pros? Well, the best way to do so is to look to the time towel there, and you'll notice those who do have a blue stripe against their name, such as Mark Johnson, they are your AMs. Meanwhile, those with the reddish stripe, those are your pros. But keep in mind, of course, that the AMs compete in the Drivers' Championship, and they also compete in their own AM Drivers' Championship, whereby the drivers will score points based on their overall finishing positions first and foremost, and they will score points based on their AM finishing positions. Meanwhile, the pros, they have no pro championship. They just compete in the overall Drivers' Championship, and the whole aim behind this, as introduced in Season 7, it worked out so well, is the idea that the AMs have something to compete for, as well as trying to prove their worth versus the pro drivers out there. And of course, the pros act as a yardstick for the AM drivers to try and compare themselves to, but also they want to try and beat their own rivals. Now we do have Rob Sharp back on the grid once again. In fact, he's parked up in the pit lane there. You can see the Oboris digital driver in his Porsche Cayman, and I think a slightly revised livery for this season, a very shiny one at that. And the driver we were just seeing out there, Martin Rendell. It's good to see him on the grid for this season, and as he heads on through, I do wonder what he's going to be able to do this time. The Porsche Cayman back once again, a lovely livery machine there. And, well, definitely a star-studded one. We're going to introduce a few more of our drivers when we do go into qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. But as we do see the checkered flag comes out on this final practice session, that means we're only 10 seconds away from going into our first qualifying session of the season today. And who exactly is going to take pole here in the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy? Well, let's find out. It's time, ladies and gentlemen, for our opening qualifying session of the season. And so, tick-tock, the clock starts to count down, and as it does, all the drivers immediately will be very quickly wanting to get out there and do everything they can in order to get themselves right towards the front of the field. But we can see there is quite a long pit lane here at the Imola circuit, so they've got to be patient with that pit limiter, but as soon as they clear the line, they're allowed to disengage the pit limiter and go for it. And as we do, we continue to go through all your drivers on the grid here today, and indeed we've had 29 drivers sign up for this season, and quite a nice and healthy number to be fair, and we've got a good mix. And speaking of newcomers to the grid, well, here's a representative from DCW Racing. It's none other than Matty Wild in the Ford GT4 Mustang. And, well, here, Matty, of course, he's been racing on several grids in the last couple of years, and I've had the pleasure of seeing him racing plenty of series. And I can tell you one thing, whilst Matty may not be the fastest, he always does enjoy himself out there. Ooh, that's the car round. And, well, somehow they all managed to weave their way around the wayward Porsche there. Trying to see who that was. I think that might have been the car of Daniel Perry having a bit of a spin. And, well, in fact, that might have been Daniel Osler. We're not quite 100% certain on that one. Indeed, both cars coming through there. But either way, Daniel Perry did tow back to the pits, so I think it was Perry. And the two Daniels there definitely keeping us confused at Fury Sim Sport. They deployed the Dans, and, well, very happy to see right now everyone making their way on through safely there. What we were saying is that Matty Wild, I've had the pleasure of seeing him race in several series, and whilst he may not be the quickest, he's definitely a very consistent driver, and having recently rebuilt his sim rig as well. In fact, I think today is the first time he's tested out his freshly rebuilt sim rig in anger, so this is definitely going to be a bit of a baptism by fire round for him, not just with regards to being on the Sim Racing Magazine grid for the first time in his racing career, but also the fact he's going to be testing out the rig for the first time as well. No easy way, is there, than the hard way. As he heads on down, we wish him the best luck on his debut. And what other drivers to introduce? We do have the return of Jules Gardner, the very infamous photographer for this series, and indeed a very talented sim racing photographer. If you are looking for someone to do sim racing photography, definitely get in touch with Mr. Gardner, because I'll tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, we absolutely love his photos, and if you've loved any of the photos that were on the slideshow in the build-up to this broadcast, well, those were done by this man. Well, this man today for Sim Racing Magazine, the team, he'll be hoping that he can go forward in the number 27 and build upon his successes of the previous season. We also do have the return of Heinz Mayer for Oris Digital, or in fact, a change of team here, of course, this season. Instead, for Rome Worthy, new team and new enterprise that he's been working as part of there with a close friend, and with a very lovely livery on the car there, albeit I am a little bit curious about the pink wing mirrors, but I presume that that is to make him quite discernible there, perhaps from his teammate. Of course, the idea is that sometimes you do run specific colour wing mirrors, and that way you're able to be told away from your teammates. And he decided to draw the straw of going for all pink, or was he the one who said, I want pink first and foremost because it is so glaringly obvious? There's nothing wrong with that, to be fair. A good splash of pink is always nice, but we are very happy to see him back on the grid. And this season, we're hoping to try and make his way into the top 5 of the AM class. He did have some impressive performances towards the end of the season. A lot of pace. Well, he's not going to impress if he makes a mistake like that coming out of Sambrello, but eager to make an impression there, and a bit too eager perhaps through that corner. Now, we do also welcome to the grid for the first time the 455 of Ian Anderson, and indeed we have a few Aston Martin V8 Vantages on the grid for this season, a car we did not see last season apart from one driver who made the one to grid only for a couple rounds. That was from 40LB Motorsport. I do believe it was the machinery of Mark Kent in Season 7, but we do have Ian Anderson here today, and, well, very happy to see him out there. there, makes his debut, and wish him the best of luck there. And I do believe racing for the team of See You Next Tuesday. And as he makes his way onwards right now, the 455 driver, definitely lovely livery on the car, definitely discernible. And I'm getting vibes right now. If anybody remembers, I think the show was Night Runner, where it was the Pontiac, of course, the all-black Pontiac, as powered by the kit computer. Well, right now, if you do take some of the red off of it, well, you would imagine that you're starting to head that way. Well, I think the red also really does accentuate the car. And if anything, also getting a bit of a feel there of what might be characters from, say, Marvel series, such as the Punisher. Although I don't know if that was the inspiration for the car, as we do see the skull on the side. But as he comes out of Ravazza, well, we've also got to carry on the theme of introducing drivers. We have Ollie Carwadine. He's back once again for Team Roamworthy this year. And as he roars his way onwards, well, right now, haven't gone from Oris Racing Yellow now to the Roamworthy team. Well, he's a Mercedes engine. The team seems to have moved away from the BMW of last season to the Mercedes, perhaps hoping that the V8 is going to give them a bit more stable platform to work with. But we also do have Paul Goffin back once again for the Sim Racing Magazine team, and well, you can always trust him to go quick in his Porsche Cayman 718. He's looking quite quick at the moment as they get the first laps on the board. And we also do have Nils Kula for Axis Sim Sport. We do have a full axis of drivers here this season, and well, Nils Kula on the grid. And well, the blue wimmer is there. That's how you can tell he's in the car. And we look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do in the AM class. And we do wish him the best luck on his debut as he heads up the rise. But as the 104 driver here, he's racing GT3s on a regular basis. I'll tell you, he's very quick in those. So I think he'll be very happy to give his hand a try at GT4 racing, with the focus, of course, being on the fact slightly slower car, but similar principle. We wish him the best of luck. And we also do have, of course, the return of Ryan Penny to the grid once again. The number 99 driver here tucking into the draft of the number 29 in front of him, and that being the car of Kim Such. That's trying to work with his teammate as they come down through Piratella Bend. But they're the Oris Racing digital team for this season, the pair of them, as we do see a number 29 as Such pulling aside there, giving a lot of space there, making sure not to impede his teammate. And well, from them to regulars are back on the grid once more. We do have Quatermass Motorsports Andy Chell on the grid. So he will be in the number 23. And well, I believe he will be joined by his teammate Mike Barber later on in the season. Or if it is just him, well, then he's going to be representing the team loudly and proudly. And well, Andy, an absolute gentleman off the circuit as he is on the circuit, to be fair. And the wonderful thing about this man, he's always got time for a chat. I'm sure we will get a few interviews with him over the course of the season. And well, normally racing in touring car machines or GT3s, we're here today racing in the GT4. So somewhere in between. Similar pace perhaps to a touring car by comparison with GT3, but of course keeping the GT3 theme of being rear-wheel drive. In this case, front engine rear-wheel drive for the Aston Martin. We do have some mid-engine rear-wheel drive cars as well. We've also got a couple more drivers to introduce, albeit this man needs no introduction. It's none other than Andrew Marsden, or Andy Marsden, as he's known to close the company. And well, your triple one driver here back once again. And he, part of the admin team and for Sim Racing Magazine. I can tell you one thing, he may not be the fastest out there, but he's there each week, giving it his all. I'm always happy to see him out there, trying to do his best and trying to close the gap in pace to the rest of the field. And he did have some memorable moments, of course, last season. He goes a little bit sideways there coming out of turn number 4, and I think he's turning up the wick today, and we look forward to seeing how quick he can go. But as he tries to go even faster, I think we have introduced everybody. In fact, we forgot this man. How could we forget this man? And this is Matthias Temp for Fury Sim Sport, the driver who many would argue if he'd been able to make a few more rounds last season, he definitely would have found himself right in the hunt for the championship overall, in the Drivers' Championship that is, and also would have really helped Fury Sim Sport to try and chase down the Teams' Championship. But he's back once again, and well, he was a little bit of a risk as to whether he was going to be able to make this round today, he was saying to me, due to personal circumstances, but he's been able to turn up, and we're very happy to see that he's been able to turn up here as he's going to give it his all. We look forward to seeing how he's going to perform here, and indeed was very fast last season, albeit you could say in some respects he was second best to his teammate of none other than Stuart Reynolds, but then again, somebody's got to be the number 1 driver and somebody's got to be number 2, and well, he was number 2, but I suspect this time around he's going to want to see whether he can be number 1. But as he goes on to another flying lap, well, what better way to indulge him by going on to one with him? Let's go on board, ladies and gentlemen, and see what it takes to do a lap around the Imola circuit, brought to you by Matthias Temp. So coming down the start-finish line straight and in towards the braking zone for turn number 2. Rolling off the brakes there in 3rd gear, going left into right as he bounces one over the curbs. And now coming in towards turn number 4. Ooh, that was a lot of curb there, and that caused the rear of the car to completely slide loose. Well, that's going to really hurt the lap there for 10, but he's still going to carry on as he comes down in towards the Villeneuve chicane. Left into right here, keeping it nice and tight on the exit turn number 5 to open up turn 6. It really is all about getting turn 6 right there. Now going up and towards the Toaster Bend at the hairpin at 7. Braking nice and early, about 100 meters from corner apex down to 2nd gear, and now feed the throttle in, straighten the steering wheel and power on out. You can use the exit curb there. Now going ready to go up towards Piratella Bend. Right now, Matthias Tem definitely flying high here to the highest points of the circuit before he comes down onto the brakes. Down to 3rd gear, rolling his way down to an apex of 77 miles an hour. Now exiting out and get ready for Aqua Minerale. Listen in, you'll hear he dab the brakes and then chucks the car. Lovely progression there for Matthias Tem. Just simply dropping a gear initially, coming down through 9 and then onto the brake sharply for turn number 10 as he exits out now, powering his way up towards the Alta chicane. Looking to the left for his brake mark, it will be the 100-meter board where he gets ready to go onto the brakes, dropping down to 2nd gear. Hops and skips his way between the curves. Indeed, you've got to absolutely hammer the curves there, but Tem decides to back off at that point, I believe, letting the lap of none other than what is Ben Idris Abdullahi going number 42. So two of them swapping things around. In fact, that's not Idris Abdullahi. I will correct myself there straight away. That being the number 42 car, that is Niels Kaur coming on through. And, well, the Satellite Racing driver right now coming to the end of the lap here as he exits Rutzer. And, well, Tem's got still a bit more work to do if he wants to find a bit more pace out there. Tem currently 21st, and understandably, he'll want to move up the order when he can. Now, you might be wondering, why have we got so many AMs and so few pros? Well, the better way to think about it is, and the idea is this is all based on relative pace of drivers and performances over previous seasons and the data that's been gathered on the drivers from their performances in official series races. And there's nothing wrong with being an AM, and indeed being a pro or considered a pro should be a sign of achievement out there. But remember, all of these drivers are competing for the same overall championship, and the AMs are competing for their own AM class championship. So therefore, we can expect that the AMs and the pros will fight each other. And in fact, it is a bit of a test for the AMs. Do they fight the pros or do they let them go? And of course, the pros being the fastest out there, they should naturally qualify towards the front of the field. But if you are an AM driver and you are able to beat a pro in qualifying, well, that is an achievement. Then being able to finish ahead of them in the race is a further achievement still. And that's why it's not always a 50-50 split, because the idea is we don't necessarily have individual class championships. We don't have a pro championship, otherwise we would look more towards the 50-50 split perhaps. But instead, much like many are real world series, you have pro drivers out there who are expected to go for the overall title, and then the AMs have both the overall title and also their own championship to play for. As we do see there, Mark Johnson decided to go off circuit to avoid other drivers, and he goes to rejoin, only to discover he's got a fellow Aston Martin coming on through, so there was no point there perhaps rejoining. But to be fair, he saw it in the nick of time and then did let Ian Anderson go through absolutely unobstructed. Anderson looking quite quick at the moment, 15th overall or 6th in class, as he is demoted to 15th there by Guy Edwards. Edwards right now, well, that's a quick lap from him, but half a second off the overall pole time right now, set by Stuart Reynolds. And well, if this is the way to start off the season, he's doing it the right way, because he comes into the pit lane, I suspect at this point, unless he's going in for a fresh set of tyres and the fuel's low on the car. Bearing in mind, of course, fixed setup means that they cannot change the fuel load of the car. It is locked. So therefore, if you do want to get the fuel out of the car, you need to deliver laps in qualifying, which always makes qualifying an interesting proposition. Well, Stuart Reynolds definitely quick, going up on the jacks, and as we thought, he's going for a fresh set of tyres. He's going to see if he can go even faster before the job's done. But speaking of going faster, well, Daniel Osler now goes up to 2nd place, 1.5 tenths off of Reynolds in the Porsche 718 Cayman. And we are expecting at this circuit the Mercedes and the Ford Mustang to be the stronger cars. Again, this is, whilst it's no longer as prominent a power circuit as it once was, this is still one of those circuits where strong traction and the ability to carry a lot of speed to the next braking zone is invaluable. Cornering capability is good as well. That's why you are seeing 4 different manufacturers inside the top 4 spots at the moment, because of the fact the Porsche and the McLaren are using their cornering abilities to their strengths. Meanwhile, for what is the Mercedes and also the Ford Mustang, they've got the straight line speed. Meanwhile, by comparison with that, we do have BMW M4, and well, here's the man we didn't introduce earlier on. Oh, goodness me. Indeed, it's always good to try and catch them all out there. John Roberts of Boosted Motorsport, he's back once again, but he's decided to go for the Ford Mustang this season to the BMW M4. So a bit of a change there, and well, John Roberts here today. Well, can he prove that it was the right call to go for here as he comes down towards turn number 2? He's way into that braking zone right now, and Roberts looking somewhat quick, but being in 8th place in the class right now, I think hoping there's a bit more time to go. find his way through turns 2, 3 and 4. Takes a bit too much curb there at 4. Let's go, calls the car, let going into the barrier. Several drivers have proven to be victims of that so far, and well, that is definitely a bit of an uncomfortable mistake to make. You won't want to make that again in a hurry. Nobody wants to make mistakes like that, understandably, because in the end, having to tow to the pit lane, it puts all the fuel back in the car, and it means you're really back to square one with the pace of the car. You've got to get the tyres warmed up once again. Remember, in the GT4s now, ever since the 2025 Season 3 update on iRacing, we saw the complete overhaul of these cars in terms of tyres and physics, and these cars now no longer the quote-unquote boats they used to be. Instead, now much more sensitive cars, even when the tyres are warmed up. We do say hello there to the time consumer. Good evening to you, good sir. I hope you're doing well. And Stuart Reynolds makes his way around on an outlap here, where he's building up to one final go at this. And keep in mind, of course, they do have overtime in qualifying, so what it does mean for him, like everybody, is as soon as the clock goes to 0, if you are on a lap, you are allowed to complete that lap. And I do wonder where Stuart Reynolds here is going to put together an even quicker lap. Can he get into the mid-48s? He is the only driver at the moment to have done a 48, a 48.919. Well, the only way to find out is to follow him on that journey, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get to it as we jump on board here with Stuart Reynolds for a final flying lap of the Imola Grand Prix circuit. To make his way down towards turn of 1, then flat out as he goes, heading up into 5th gear already, 144 miles an hour as he crossed that timing line. Now building his way down towards turn number 2, he'll go flat out through turn 1, of course, and get ready for the braking zone. Looks to his right, braking at the marshal's post there, about 150 meters from corner apex down to 3rd gear. Left into right here, just takes it nice and easy as he rolls through, and now coming in towards turn number 4, keeps it tight on entry, lets the car roll out there as he battles with oversteer. Heading down towards Villeneuve, it looks to his right hand side for his next brake mark. It will be at the 50 meter board. Dab the brakes, drop to 3rd gear, clatter the apex curb, and now through the right hand out of turn at number 6, and onwards he goes up the hill towards Tosa at 7. Oh, it's right, braking at the 50 meter board all the way down to 2nd gear, and as he comes down to 48 miles an hour at the apex, he now exits out and heads up towards turn number 8 at Piratella. It's been a good lap so far, being a bit of an aggressive one, it should be said, but to be aggressive here is to be quick. And as he looks to his right hand side of the 50 meter board, braking about 75 meters from corner apex, comes down into 3rd gear, and now onwards he'll go in towards the next things at Aqua Minerale. Look to your left, brake at the 50 meter board or just before it, dab the brakes to get the speed down, get the front of the car pitching forward with all the weight, and then out to turn number 10 he goes, build up the throttle and blast away as he charges his way now over and up towards Alta Chicane. As he heads up the hill and in towards that next braking zone, the 50 meter board awaits him. Onto the brakes he goes there, down to 2nd gear. And we're coming out now onwards towards what will be the last couple of quarters. And Reynolds in the end having to really fight with the car every step away. He is going quick here. Personal best in the middle sector. And in fact, even purple now in the middle sector. So as he breaks his way down into that, so this could be an even quicker lap here for the defending champion. Coming out, he's got to keep him in track limits. Just about does so. Through turn number 15 then. Does he nail the throttle? He does. He lets the preload carry the car around through the corner, but Reynolds takes it into the pit lane. He's not happy at the end of the lap, and for Stuart Reynolds, well, it was a quick lap, no doubt about it, but in the end, it was not enough to improve, and as he makes way down pit lane there, I think he's just burning off a little bit of steam, but he gave it everything. But as we do see here, Matthias Penslar heading around. Well, right now, your number 12 driver here, rolling his way on down the hill. And, well, he's currently the 3rd fastest in this qualifying session. But where is the time that he needs? He is almost half a second off of Reynolds. Daniel Osler still in 2nd. And in terms of drivers out there at the moment, well, nobody else really out there on the lap. Ian Anderson is the only AM driver currently on the lap, as Andy Chill does improve to a personal best of 51.611, but that doesn't move him beyond 13th in the AM class or 23rd overall. So Anderson right now, I think he's on a cool-down lap as well. Given the length of time he's spending out there, we will see he might actually be on a valid lap. Well, he improved on his previous one to a 50.67 as the front brake disc there glowing red hot coming down in towards turn number 15. Well, not a good sign there in this qualifying session. You do want them glowing hot to a degree, but not that hot this early on. And Anderson decides to come into the pit lane. So that means qualifying is complete, ladies and gentlemen. And well, here at Imola, it is Stuart Reynolds who starts off the season on the most important thing. Take pole position to prove you are number 1. And he'll be joined on the front row of the Fury Simsport drive by his teammate of Daniel Osler in his debut. Row 2, it'll be Matthias Penslar and Guy Edwards. But further back, starting 9th place, Mark Johnson in his new Aston Martin for Track Mouse Racing. And remember, of course, he was in the McLaren last season. Every time it was going so right for Mark Johnson, it started going wrong. Is that going to be a thing this season, or can he break the bad luck spell? Well, he's going to have Chris Jennings for company on that 5th row, and just behind 11th will be your 2nd place starter of the AMs. It will be Martin Rendell before they have Matthias Tem behind him on that 6th throw with him. But now as we head into the 5-minute warm-up session, new for this season. Previously, we would go straight to the grid for the purposes of our race, but we have given a 5-minute period, and that gives you guys and girls at home, of course, an opportunity. If you haven't been to the bathroom, if you haven't got yourself a top of a liquid refreshment or everything between, go do it now. If you feel like grabbing some snacks, if you feel like throwing some popcorn in the microwave, go do it. You've got 5 minutes. After that, we head to the grid, and the racing will start, and you will not want to walk away for the simple reason the race is going to be absolutely intense, and you won't want to miss a second of it today. It also gives our drivers an option to have a little bit of a comfort break, should they need or desire it. Although, to be fair, will they need it? Some decide not to, some decide to, and some decide just to be straight in the middle and in between. Indeed, not everybody wants to necessarily take the comfort break there. As Daniel Osler demonstrates, he wants to be out there right now, keeping the juices flowing and keeping the adrenaline pumping. The same for Heinz Mayer as he comes out to turns at 5 and 6 here, and also there just behind, well, we do have the machinery of Martin Rendell. And Will Martin, of course, was a quick driver in Season 7, the rounds he was able to make, and we're looking at quick here today. Could this be a start of a campaign which is going to see him try to take the top step? Well, you never know. As we do see there, Tunkun is saying, consider joining for this season, but joined a different Tuesday night league. That's absolutely fair, and we do miss seeing you on the grid, to be fair, but we'll hopefully see you in the near future. Indeed, perhaps some of the other Full Tilt guys coming on back at some point. That'd be absolutely fantastic. But if you are watching via YouTube right now, and of course you have access to the chat, you are more than welcome. Don't be shy. Feel free to say hi, but there is no pressure here to say anything in the YouTube chat, because of course here at Sim Racing International, we're not Sim Racing International, my apologies, Sim Racing Magazine, I do beg my pardon. Well, here at Sim Racing Magazine, we definitely are a very friendly community, and the only biting you will hear will be on the brakes of these machines, and if they bite too hard, well, the ABS will go on, and we'll see quite a lot of understeer from all these cars as they come on down. Well, as Rendell makes his way on down the hill here, we're now the number 33 driver, definitely very eager to get things off to the right start. Oh, he's only got 3 minutes before he does. But as Ian Anderson heads on through, one thing that's definitely noticeable this season is that the BMW M4 Evo nowhere near as popular as it was last season, and we do have a few other drivers who we should definitely introduce with regards to being on the grid, albeit they're not here today. But if you are curious as to who else we do have going racing for this season, well, we can't bring it up on the screen at the moment, but the drivers we are not seeing here today, well, Gary Toole being one of them, we'll hopefully see him in round 2 onwards. I do believe he's currently away on adventures in real life, but he will be back in the near future. Also, none other than Lee Berridge. Of course, he'll be joining John Roberts. We expect him to be joining the grid as of our second round onwards. And we do have 2 other names there not on the grid today. In terms of who they are, well, we are missing none other than Simon Povey, I do believe. And I think with that, we might just be missing one more driver. It is Stephen Codman. But all names you'll be very familiar with, of course, and we expect them back in round number 2. So, plenty to be excited about with regards to drivers coming back in the near future. Indeed, that's the wonderful thing here at Sim Racing Magazine as well. With these drivers all having a lot of experience in racing each other, the newcomers will definitely find themselves fitting in quite well, but there's always that natural respect that's been built up between drivers over the course of several seasons, indeed successive years of racing now, and that's only going to make the racing even closer and even more intense. But as we do say hello there to Simon Bird, who cheers on Heinz Mayer. Here, of course, is Heinz Mayer in the wonderful Rome-worthy machine. And, well, right now, did well in qualifying, to be fair, to be inside the top 10 of the AMs. We do have a very stacked AM class for this season. But Mayer, of course, chasing the top 5. That is going to be his target, and well, will he be able to nail his target? We will see. But it's going to be a lot of work for him to do here. Of course, this Imola circuit's going to be one where a bit of strategy will not go amiss, and what can we expect in the race is perhaps a question. Well, one of the things we can expect is it will, in the open laps, all be about trying to take track position. Imola is not an easy circuit to overtake at, as well as you do have long straights and wide corners. It's, as we mentioned earlier, it's a very stop-start circuit. It's short runs to every corner sequence, so therefore, unless you have an absolute huge advantage going around the lap, alternatively you have the better corner exit on the run to the next straight, you normally find you're going to be stuck behind the car in front of you. Now, of course, if you're in a power car, such as the Ford Mustang, a BMW M4 or a Mercedes AMG, you do have the natural advantage, which is you are quicker on the straights, and particularly if we do have a Mustang chasing one of our Porsche Caymans, of course the Cayman here being exhibited by Daniel Osler and another one by Paul Goffin, they may be swallowed up a little bit on the straights as they haven't got a slipstream to work with. But that's where strategy becomes valuable. If you can fuel save off the back of another car, and if you can save for several laps in a row, you may be able to go 1 or 2 extra laps, and that in turn can shorten your pit stops, and that enables you to get the time back. So therefore expect a lot of drivers after the opening couple of laps to tuck in behind other cars and decide to not push too hard. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, who exactly is going to push hard? Who's going to keep it safe? Because here we go. We head to the grid for the first time this season for the opening round of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge Season 8, as brought to you on iRacing, sponsored by Oris Digital. And as our drivers make the round to the grid, this is how they'll line up for our season opening round of racing here at the Autodromo International Enzo E. Dino Ferrari. Stuart Reynolds takes pole position for Fury Simsport. The defending champion starts off strong by taking pole position by 1.5 tenths over Paddock Motorsport's Daniel Osler. We then do have none other than Matthias Pentela starting in third there for RD Simsport ahead of Guy Edwards. The 6-7 Motorsport driver starting in fourth ahead of none other than Daniel Perry for Paddock Motorsport. Sister team there to Fury Simsport starting in fifth. It's then Simon Povey in sixth place there for 6-7 Motorsport ahead of Niels Kaur for Satellite Racing, with Ben Idris Abdullahi, his teammate, starting in eighth. We then have ninth on the grid, your pole sitter for today. It is none other than Mark Johnson, the Track Mouse Racing driver in the company of Chris Jennings there for Axis Sim Sports. Outside the top 10, starting in 11th place, it's then going to be your second AM driver of Martin Rendell, the privateer. He's going to be in the company of Matthias Ten for Fury Sim Sport, and the Dutchman followed up by the Scotsman there of Rob Sharp. The Aborius Racing driver then ahead of Niels Kula for Axis Sim Sports, rounding off your 7th row of the grid. It's a good debut for Kula. Can he move forward from there? Ollie Carwadine starting in 15th for Rowan Worthy. A very good end to his qualifying performance. Ahead of the See You Next Tuesday driver of Ian Anderson there in 16th, and the Scotsman then followed up by Paul Goffin for SRM and Oris Racing's Ryan Penny. Then completing the top 20, it is going to be none other than John Roberts of Boosted Motorsport and Heinz Mayer. In the end, he was looking good in qualifying, with the South African driver being relegated down right in the late stage. It was so close there between Penny, Roberts and himself, only attempt separating the trio. He completes your top 20. Outside the top 20, we do have Matty Wells starting 21st for DCW Racing on his debut, ahead of Kim Such Oris Racing. And it's going to be Andy Cho on his debut for Quatermass Motorsport, starting 23rd ahead of none other than Giles Gardner, and it will be from the Sim Racing Magazine driver to his teammate of Andy Marsden, 25th there, completing your starting order of 25 cars. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the field makes its way around. The formation lap is almost complete here at the Imola circuit. And as they all come on down the hill, we're not too far away from going green flag racing, but a lovely view there over the local scenic countryside. And as they all begin to come back to us, well, we look down to the close cameras, and it will be to Stuart Reynolds in the lead Fury Simsport car, the number 1, to take us away for a grand total of 60 minutes of racing come race day number 1. And he builds up the speed, and it's lights out, and away we go here for our first race of the season. Stuart Reynolds gets us underway. Daniel Osler immediately tucks in behind there as they come across that timing line and roar the way down. 60 minutes going of racing now, and as they all make the way up towards turns 1 and 2. Well, a big scramble there between cars, but Reynolds really does get the drop on everybody. But into that first heavy braking zone here, it's going to be cold brakes and tyres. We see the McLarens that have Guy Edwards and Simon Povey trying to squeeze their way around. Simon Povey here today, and as he comes through turn number 4 in towards 5. All right, now trying to look for a move here, but is he going to be able to make it happen? Not quite so. Niels Kaur, they're going side by side with him, and the two, neither one willing to back out here, and in the end they're not going to back out through Villeneuve at all, and Povey does get ahead, albeit their Kaur having to be squeezed slightly on the exit curve to make sure they don't go too wide into Tosa Bend. Mark Johnson, he's had a good start, he's in 9th with Matthias Ten following him through. Chris Jennings meanwhile has lost out a little bit there, dropping back to 11th place. So Jennings had a slow start, meanwhile Tim's had a good one, and Martin Rendell is just watching behind the second the Yam drivers, with Niels Kula and close company heading up the rise. Ollie Carwadine, meanwhile, a bit further back here, trying to put some pressure onto Ryan Penny. These are the two, of course, sister team drivers last season, but this season, of course, absolutely fight each other. And Heinz Mayer right behind his teammate there, and Mayer's had a good start, 2 places gained, and we're moving upwards as they come down in towards Aqua Minerale. But of course, at the start of this race, everyone's in a long line, trying to make sure they don't do anything too rapid, as meanwhile, we have a black flag for Matthias Tem. Well, that's completely unexpected. I suspect that will be for a jump start. Now, we've only just had that pop up by looks of things with regards to what we're seeing here in our commentary booth. So Tim, it has been recorded as having taken a jump start. I wonder if whether in the 2x2 formation he has been considered to have jumped to position on the driver he was starting side by side with. If so, that might explain it, but that is a drive-through penalty, and he's going to have to serve that within 3 laps to the start of the race. Otherwise, it will be upgraded to a disqualification. So for Matthias Tem, this has gone completely wrong before it's even got underway. He does come into the pit lane, and remember, he cannot serve strategy here. He comes in, in, and he has to put the car on the limiter and now just wait as he makes one down. The most painful punishment there can be. Whilst it goes wrong for him, meanwhile for Stuart Reynolds, it's a lead that he's trying to break open as Daniel Osler keeps him close behind in second. Then it's Matthias Patea in third, and then it will be Daniel Perry fourth, ahead of Guy Edwards fifth. Simon Povey, his teammate, in sixth there for the 6-7 Racing Machines. Then it is Niels Kaur in seventh, ahead of Ben Idris Abdullahi. Gap already forming there between Povey and Edwards, so the top five are breaking away, and it's sixth all the way through to what is eighth together there, as we do see the two satellite racing drivers working together. Then Mark Johnson, the AM leader, sits in ninth with only a 7/10 of a second gap to Chris Jennings, who now doesn't have to worry about Matthias Pentelar. Instead, all he needs to focus on is chasing down Johnson for ninth, and he can start to pick on the pros in front of him. You can see Martin Rendell there in 11th, second the AMs. He's got Niels Cooler for close company with Rob Sharp there, currently in 13th, fourth in class, ahead of Ian Anderson, and that completes a rundown all the way through to the top five of AM, as we do see Ryan Penny there, your 15th place runner, just trying to stay with Anderson there. Heinz Mayer, well, he's definitely started to get a little bit fruity with potential moves as he gets close there to Carbadine, coming down the hill still, but understanding the Rowan Worthy driver, well, he's got to think about this. Does he try to work with Carbadine to make a move, or does he instead now sit behind and fuel save? Well, if so, he'll be on the radio to his teammate to say what his plans are. Indeed, all these teams normally are talking to each other through some form of voice over the internet protocol communication, whether it be Discord or another messaging service. But right now, Heinz Mayer here definitely playing the teamwork game, playing the number 2 driver mechanic, which is essentially to sit behind your teammate, save some fuel, don't make sure you don't pressure your teammate too hard, but also get ready to tell them if you think you are the faster driver. And as he does have, of course, Paul Goffin and what is none other than John Roberts behind as we look back from the rear of his car. Well, all these drivers right now in a line. And that's the thing about Imola as well. You can expect it is going to be linear racing at first, but once the field starts to separate and the slipstream starts to be dropped for certain packs of cars, that's when we can start to see the battling get underway. As Mayer makes his way onwards, I do love the way he's got the reflected AMG on that rear wing there, catching the sky as he makes his way onwards, all chrome. Well, meanwhile, looking back, here's an example, Andy Chell looking to try and make a move on Kim Such when he can. And Chell, to be fair, has had a good start to this race, gained one place overall, Matthias Tem having the drive-through penalty for the jump start. But the point being here that Chell all over the back of Kim Such, and right now trying to push on in the Aston Martin. Now, if you're wondering why nobody really picked the Aston Martin last season, it's a bit of an odd car. Front engine, rear wheel drive, well, you'd think it's a power car until you start driving it. And what you realise is the gearing of the Aston Martin is incredibly tightly wound. This is one of those cars, much like, say, the Audi in the TCR class in iRacing, where the fixed setup essentially dictates that the gear ratios of this car are more geared towards acceleration than anything else. So it does mean that you have some very peculiar choices when you are making your way up through the gearbox and going into quarters. Whereas many cars going through the Tosa hairpin would be in, say, second gear. In this car, you might be in third. But meanwhile, we have a change of lead as we do see Daniel Osler heading in towards the Alta chicane, swapping places there with Stuart Reynolds. And well, this top five, nobody's really breaking away at the moment, but understanding there's a change for lead, and I wonder whether that has been done strategically. As meanwhile, there's been a bit of drama for Andy Chell. We leave his Aston Martin for a brief moment, and he gets himself spun around there at Minerale, gets himself pointed back in the right direction, and Matthias Tem and Matty Wild will catch up. And in fact, Matty Wild's had a bit of a moment. I wonder if the two have been related in some description in regards to the incident. As Paul Goffin, meanwhile, he's picked up a slowdown for track limits. I wonder if that has been taking a void in action to a wayward car. I think there's quite a few questions here that we need some answers to, and we are going to get those answers in short course with some replays. At least for now, we're going to stay in the live, as we do see there will be Matthias Tem making his way around the outside to inside here towards Razza. Onto the brakes, the Fury Sim Sport driver goes and moves into 23rd ahead of Andy Chell. But without further ado, we're going to take a look back at some of the big moments from the start of this race, including, of course, what was the start and how it potentially affected Matthias Tem. So this was as we went green flag racing. Oh, goodness me, and as we did go, I think that explains why he's picked up a black flag there, Matthias Tem, because he would be adjudged as he has technically made a move just as we've gone green. I think it's where he's got his nose ahead of Mark Johnson at just that last moment. I think that's why he's picked up the black flag there. And well, it was a quick start for him, but I think he was a bit too quick on the draw there. And well, unfortunately, getting the black flag as a result, not a happy moment. But still, clean start for everybody involved. Fantastic racing. And well, we had this go for what was Daniel Osler. And to take the lead of the race on lap number 3, Stuart Reynolds made his way into Aqua Minerale, and as he did, went a bit wide there, snap oversteer as he came out, and that was how Osler got him through. So it was not a strategic swap, but in the end, Stuart Reynolds decided to back off there rather than fight the issue coming in towards the Alta chicane, knowing it would cost them time and tyre life. We had this, meanwhile, happened in parallel for Matty Wild, so he made his way up into the left-hander Piratella bend, and as he did so, rear of the car let go very gradually, put the brakes on, and a small biff to the wall there. Number 28 having to be reversed on, but the front bumper falling off, and then we had this for Andy Chell only moments later as he made his way down in towards Aqua Minerale. Went on the brakes initially, chucked the car into the corner, went on the brakes again, and well, it looked all right at first, but in the rear of the car started to come loose, and much like Matty Wild, once the car goes, you're in that slow motion spin, and that's where we did see some evasive action being taken from several drivers. And we also had this for Martin Rendell. So Rendell made his way in towards Villeneuve just now. In fact, the number 33 driver all over the back there of the Mustang, and in the end, taking too much curb, and the Porsche suspension could not take it, and it was a gentle spin to the barrier. But back to your live racing we come, and as we do, well, there's still more because we are only 8 minutes into this. We've still got plenty of time, and Daniel Osler right now hold in position, and we're very excited to be on the grid today. When I caught up with him in the build-up to the racing, saying he was really looking forward to go racing, and I can tell you one thing, whilst Fury Sims have got two different teams out there, Osler right now definitely showing that whether he is part of one team or the other, he's going to give it everything he can. He is not a driver who's just going to be sat there and having to play, let's say, the team game all the way through, but to be fair, why would you? When you think you've got the pace, well, definitely you want to try and lead that race as much as you can. But understandably, it might be one of the situations for the paddock motorsport driver right now, might have to think to himself at some point, do I give up the lead here in order to get some fuel back? But it is a double-edged sword because the car behind of Stuart Reynolds, well, is going to be a lot faster on the straights as we go on to one here, even though it's a short one coming out towards the auto chicane. And do you want to give track position to a car that could outrun you to every braking zone and cornering zone where your Porsche is stronger? Now, of course, we did see that at some other venues in Season 7. We did see the struggles of the Porsche drivers, particularly at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben, where they had so much corner speed, but unfortunately for them, every time they were to get on the inside of a rival, they were then on the outside of the next corner, such was the way of the Oschersleben circuit. And when they did try to make overtakes coming out of corner sequences, they typically were confronted with a straight, and on that straight, the Mercedes or the Ford Mustangs were able to pull away. So that's why Daniel Osler right now that he has got lead position, I suspect that whilst we are very early in this race, he might be keen to fight for it if Reynolds looks for a return to the lead. Here they come, and in the end, Reynolds decides just to stay close, backs off. I think that's a smart move there from Stuart Reynolds. I think his game plan is, well, I can stay with the Porsche in front of me. Everyone else behind me seems to be quite peaceful at the moment. Why do I need to make a move when I can simply just play it smart and save some fuel instead and give myself strategic advantage? There's the downside of the Mercedes. It is quite thirsty on fuel, as any big old V8 would be. It's a bit of a glutton with regards to fuel consumption, and that's something the Porsche does not have as much of an issue of with regards to its engine, so therefore it can be a bit of a switch up there with regards to pace and performance. But as Roberts makes his way on the chase here to Paul Goffin, well, here we're seeing our BMW Evo driver getting a bit closer there as he makes his way in towards Villeneuve. And this BMW definitely has been one of those cars whereby a lot of drivers have found it to be a very challenging car to drive, albeit it's a rewarding one. And the main theme has been the Evo has seen refinements, of course, to the aerodynamics. And, well, we are on the G82 platform of BMW. We previously did have the F82 of course, in iRacing. It was replaced by the G82. And then we did get the upgrade to the Evo variant as the midway point of last year. And, well, the base model being replaced with the Evo. And it does mean right now the drivers are running the very latest M4 machine, albeit this is one of those cars whereby it's got a lot of performance, but the challenge of it is extracting that performance. It is a very sensitive car under heavy braking, as we do see there John Roberts essentially having to balance the steering wheel. That rear of the car really wants to snap on around. Towards the auto chicane here, and Goffin very strong through the middle sector lap, as you would expect. Roberts, meanwhile, now that we start to move more in towards the power section, well, suddenly the turbo supplemented six-cylinder engine of this BMW will really come to life. In terms of these being road cars, of course, they are road cars, as the relationship would say 80% road car, 20% race car. The difference being the road car has all of its interior stripped out. It does have to retain the same engine as the road car, albeit it can be race tuned, but these cars running approximately 450 brake horsepower, which is why they're not quite on the level of GT3, but they come close. But obviously, the other nature of it is in the fact that, unlike a GT3, they do not have a huge amount of aerodynamic refinement. They do have front bumpers put in for racing configuration, also some splitters being added. Outside of that and the colossal rear wing on the back of the car, this is much like the road car to an extent. But meanwhile, change of position here perhaps, as that is going to be Andy Marsden being passed by Andrew Chell. And Chell makes his way on through, and well, in the end, Marsden decides to cut back to the inside there. And I think right now looking one way, then the other, and I think just trying to get himself set for his racing line right now, as Chell tries to move on and trying to make a bit more progress. Now, Matty Wild did come into the pit lane after his brief excursion to the barrier. I suspect that was for a little bit of repair work on the car, but also potentially to see if he can get a pit stop out the way nice and early. Now, we are expecting, based on the fuel tanks we have, that this will be a two-stop race, given that we have seen in previous seasons with a 37% fuel load that these cars will normally go around 18 to 22 minutes before needing a refuel. Albeit Daniel Osler right now won't be thinking about that. He'll be thinking about how he's been the fool for completely making a ham sandwich out of the Alta chicane. Well, as he comes on down, Stuart Reynolds right now simply riding his rear bumper. I think Reynolds is giving him another chance there rather than trying to make a move. He doesn't want to essentially exhaust some time out of both drivers. It was a mistake there from Osler, just taking a bit too much curb on the entry into Alta, the first of the two apex curbs, and that upset his line into the second one. That's why he's lost out a little bit. But as they make the way onto the next lap, onto lap number 8, well, Reynolds definitely being very patient here as Matthias Penslar watches on from behind. And while the driver from RD Simsport back once again, a bit of a different livery on the car, and well, a very different one from what we normally expect. The very vibrant pink and black colours, where it's the bases of black for this season, with a bit of pink thrown in, a bit of blue as well. But indeed, RD Simsport are known to experiment their liveries, and they have had some absolutely brilliant liveries over the course of what has been a very long time for the team. Indeed, they've been around longer than I've been commentating, ladies and gentlemen. But as Penslar comes onwards, meanwhile, Daniel Perry and Guy Edwards still with him. And it is an incredible thing. We do have 4 manufacturers inside the top 5 overall in Pro right now. And it really goes to show you how good the balance of performance of these GT4 cars is. As we do have Guy Edwards staying on, Simon Povey, his teammate, there with him. And then Niels Core just falling away a little bit. Now, that's been one of the seasons, one of the stories of the previous seasons, of course, for Niels Core, is the fact that he's normally been very quick with a pack of cars, but if he does fall away from the leaders, he does start to struggle a little bit. Not because he's not a quick driver, but he normally just needs the extra tenth or two that being in the pack gives him. And, well, I don't think it's through lack of trying, to be fair, but he's pushing himself, and his teammate Benny Abdullahi is not too far off. Whilst our lead group of pros are definitely getting close to each other, we've also got a growing group of AMs here. Ryan Penny in 5th at the moment. He's fallen away a little bit from none other than, what is there, Ian Anderson in front. And now Penny, I think, trying to make sure that he does not make any mistakes to fall back into the clutches of those guys behind. Albeit Mayer, Goffin and Roberts all in a long line here. And Caldine right now, I think, feeling as though there is some growing pressure as he rolls his way up through the Alta chicane. But of course, we are starting to make our way towards the end of the first stint. So is it time to start thinking about pit stops? Is there an opportunity to actually get the upper hand by pitting slightly early? Or alternatively, if you're not going to undercut, do you overcut your rivals? Well, we look back to the front of the field, and you can see Reynolds now within 2 tenths here down the start-finish straight. But again, playing peaceful, does not go for the move initially as they hop and skip the way between the curbs. And, well, of course, you want to attack those sausage curves as much as possible, but we've seen what happens if you get a little bit too greedy with them. And our drivers right now definitely have to do a bit of a delicate balancing act. And, well, that's why you're noticing perhaps that, say, the McLarens of Edwards and Povey are not taking those curves anywhere near as aggressively. They want to make sure they keep the rear of that car absolutely planted. But rolling up the hill and in towards the next battling zone. These drivers right now keeping their heads down and pushing onwards. Well, if we look back to Mark Johnson, the AM leader, a bit of a lonely AM lead at the moment. Well, he is only 5 seconds ahead of Niels Cooler, but between the two is Chris Jennings. And Jennings here, I've had the pleasure of meeting him in person once last year. And indeed, I can tell you one thing, an absolute gentleman of the circuit and a gentleman racer on the circuit there. And I get the feeling that right now, whilst he may not be the quickest out there, definitely still getting to grips with this Ford Mustang for Action Sim Sports. And time will definitely be a good healer for his pace in terms of the gap between him and those at the very front. But even now being in 10th place, I think he'll be happy to take a top 10 on his debut. But from him, we come back to the long line of AM drivers. Of course, Ryan Penny at the very front of it. Then it's Ollie Carwadine. Then we do have Mayer, Goffin, Roberts and Rendell. They're all fighting for 5th through to 10th place. Kim Such a bit too far back to get involved right now for Oris Racing Digital. What he'll be hoping for is that perhaps there'll be some fighting in due order as he goes a bit wide there, coming for Ackerman Arale, takes it off track, but to be fair, slows it down so that way he doesn't pick up a slowdown penalty that may be associated with it. But as the leaders go on to now lap number 10, well, they put another lap behind them. Reynolds this time, as he crosses the timeline, 1.5 tenths rather than 2.5 tenths. Reynolds is building up here. I wonder whether he's thinking about a move very shortly, because we can see him impressing and pressing on versus the Porsche in front of him. Well, Daniel Osler's not silly, but if you're Daniel Osler at this point, do you come into the pits before the guy behind you? Do you essentially trigger off the pit stops? The answer may not be as clear-cut as it would normally be here. Some would normally say, yes, you would, because of the simple reason you don't want that pressure behind. But if you give up track position to Reynolds, what else are you giving up? Are you giving up the chance to be able to beat him because of the fact that once he's in the clear air, he may feel a little bit more confident? But of course, right now, you are gifting him some fuel saving. But again, flip the coin over. If you can back him into Pentelar, Perry, and perhaps Edwards, you might have an opportunity there to really discover his ability to fight you. So it is all swings and roundabouts between these drivers. Guy Edwards at the back of this group, where he's fallen back to 1.3 seconds. He's not had the best of laps to start with this one. In fact, a bit of a mistake coming through the Tamburello chicane has really what's led to him open up that gap. And he'll be hoping he can close back up in short order. But building his way up, as he gives chase there to Daniel Perry. Well, we can't see the fact that still Simon Povey staying with his teammate, and then we have Court and Idris Abdullahi. These two absolutely still together, no more than 6 tenths between them. And I think right now it might be the situation whereby the Mercedes driver, Idris Abdullahi, has caught up a little bit, but Court's maintained his pace. I think they are trying to help each other out here on strategy. Court is trying to give his teammate a bit of room to fuel save in the very thirsty Mercedes, like the Mustang is a thirsty lady as well. If you do refer to your cars as ladies, to be fair, it's antiquated to some, and we're coming on out right now. We're definitely seeing what you can do here for the time to come. We can see that Simon Birdsane, he ate his Weetabix today, and I do believe that might be in relation to Heinz Mayer, who here he is right now as he comes on down. And we do have our first pit stop. Mark Johnson comes into the pit lane from the lead of the AM class. Comes in from 9th, as meanwhile, well, Sonny, it all kicks off because our leaders have changed just like that. And, well, that's going to be 3 wide, almost coming down towards the Vildo chicane. And we have Pentelar battling with Osler there, 2 wide on entry. And we're just behind Daniel Perry tucks in there. So Perry couldn't quite get involved, but Stuart Reynolds has found his way through. I think there's more to this than meets the eye. But as they come up the rise in towards Tosa Hairpin, Pentelar's going to hold that move for now. But Reynolds will be starting to pull away here, and we'll look at the exit speed there from Daniel Osler. That is what the Porsche does best, is coming out of low speed corners there, full throttle. Pentelar, meanwhile, the flying Finn, well, he's got to be careful. Or the fact right now is Ford Mustang with so much torque on the rear wheels and no weight at the back of the car, when it's very easy to get plenty of wheel spin and oversteer with it. But he does hold on to that second place, change a foot. But now, is this the chance for Reynolds? Has he got the ability to go a few more laps? If so, he might be able to build a gap, and that gap could be the difference between victory or being just on the podium today, as Pentelar has snuck his way on past the Porsche driver of Osler, and Perry watching on behind me. You can see there the 2 Paddock Motorsport Porsches right now queuing up, wanting to poke and probe, but they're just having to wait their turn. Coming down towards Ravatsa now. Well, long line of cars there, but this top 6 is being condensed back together a little bit, albeit notably Simon Povey still 1.2 seconds back. He is not closing, even though his teammate Edwards is. And I wonder if Povey has actually decided he wants the gap to be about 1.2 seconds. If so, Povey could be the man to watch in this race, just because he might be doing a lot more fuel saving than many others are. Albeit they all dart into pit lane here, so they all come in on schedule. Nobody wants to be out of the sequence, and well, that makes sense. Chris Jennings, meanwhile, comes out the final corner. We do have Court and Idris Abdullahi in. And are we just going to see the max exodus to the pit lane here of every car on the grid? It can happen. Well, one driver who won't be doing that, of course, will be none other than Mark Johnson, because he took his pit stop a lap earlier. In fact, we have had pit stops for Anderson, Penny, Mayer, Roberts and Rendell as well. They've all taken pit stops, and Sarch and Chell. So that's going to be the exchange. And right now, Mark Johnson, a very lonely circuit in front of him. He'll feel, though, this is looking all good and right. We'll have to see whether it's going to work out the way as Stuart Reynolds starts to leave the pit lane. We heads on down, and as he does so, Daniel Osler's there with him, and meanwhile, Matthias Pentelar has dropped to the back of the group. He's dropped back to 6th place there, so Pentelar had to take some extra fuel in the pit lane. His pit stop was 2 seconds longer than everybody else inside that top 6 group, and well, that's why he's dropped to the very back of it, and that is the sign of the strategy difference. The Mustang loves fuel in terms of drinking it. Meanwhile, all the others easier on saving the fuel by comparison. But Daniel Osler and Daniel Perry, they're getting very close together already. Now heading up towards turn at number 5. No change, however, by looks of things. They want to work together, but Stuart Reynolds has bought himself a 2-second gap as a result of what's been playing out. But meanwhile, what else is playing out there? Heinz Mayer, we decided to go a lap earlier, and that's going to get him back ahead of Ollie Carwadine. So he makes a place there. John Roberts, meanwhile, looking up the inside of Paul Goffin here, trying to get the place for 8th in the AM class. But then Goffin's going to come across, squeeze him to the apex of turn number 4. Here comes Martin Rendell as well. So Rendell on a mission to get involved. These drivers right now poking, probing, looking every which way at each other. But in the end, it looks like Paul Goffin has been able to hold Roberts at bay. As we look back from the rear of your number 164 Porsche, the Sim Racing Magazine machine. Onto the brakes here, look up the inside there for Roberts. That's going to be very pokey-proby, and in the end he pokes a bit too much, and I think he's going to rustle the feathers of Paul Goffin, and Goffin being turned sideways slightly there, does get it back together, but I don't think he'll be too pleased about that one, and Roberts now does have Rendell right on his heels as they come through Piratella Bend. He runs wide there, and right now Rendell's got to be thinking to himself, it's going to be now or never shortly. We're coming down towards Aqua Minerale. Is he going to go for it here? He's surely not. In fact, he decides not to. I think it's getting a little bit temperamental there, and we're going to get some replays of those big moments very shortly, but definitely quite a bit of fighting, and well, that fighting has opened up the door to plenty more to come. In terms of what else out there is to come, well, as these drivers make their way up in towards the Alta chicane, well, we do take a look back at how exactly we did have that change of the lead for Reynolds, getting back into lead on lap number 11 versus Daniel Osler, and here's the replay to explain. So this was coming down towards turn number 2. Onto the brakes they went. A little bit of grass as he turned into the corner. Daniel Osler too far over. Hit the sausage curbs there at turn number 3 as well. And had to completely back off the throttle. Otherwise the car would have been ejected out onto the gravel there. And that's why he lost out so much. It was a minor error. And well, if you want to see the perspective of how we know it as a touch of the grass, this was on board from Stuart Reynolds at the time. On the dashboard, watch the rear right wheel there of Osler, and you can see just goes slightly over, and that upsets the rear balance of the car, calls it to slide, and Stuart Reynolds at that moment just simply went, you know what, I know what I've got to do, head down, get the move done, get it done just like that. But after that, well, Matthias Pentelar then was on the inside as well, took the same approach as Reynolds and managed to steal that second place away. But of course now we know it hasn't quite worked out given how things changed in the pit lane as we come back to your live racing. As we do, well, there's still more stories to be told out there. In fact, we will get a replay of how Paul Goffin got slightly elbowed by John Roberts, although it does seem as though the places have been swapped back since then. So I wonder if there's been a bit of a gentleman's agreement between the two drivers. And to be fair, of course, if there are any contentious moments, drivers are always encouraged. They are encouraged to race by the rule, which is if you feel as though you shouldn't have done something when you go for a move, then give the place back if you don't feel it was right. And well, definitely seen that by looking from John Roberts as he's now given the place back to Paul Goffin, and he's going to try and go again. But they have lost Kim Such as a result, and in fact Martin Rendell has moved ahead, so I wonder if there's been a bit more to this than meets the eye. Well, let's start off by taking a look back at what exactly happened to trigger off the move or the battle, and here's the replay of that. So this was coming out of the Villeneuve chicane, and in the end Paul Goffin in the middle of the road. So Roberts thought there was some space, he went for it, and it did squeeze in the end, and it all come down to the question mark of how much overlap there was at the point of contact. And John Roberts there will feel as though he had his nose on the inside. Goffin would argue that the door was going to shut, so Roberts was fighting into a closing space. But that's how that happened, and then we had this for Martin Rendell towards the end of the lap, coming out of what was Aqua Minerale, and as they made the way up the hill, well, Roberts there pulled over, and I believe decided to give up the place. We have not had anything to say he picked up a slowdown, and in fact there he went immediately tucked back in behind Goffin. It was to give the place back, so very respectful racing there from John Roberts, feeling as though on reflection actually that move wasn't on, gives the place back to Paul Goffin. He loses out to Martin, what is it there? Martin Rendell, but he'll still be happy with the fact that he has been able to give that back. But in a twist of fate, we've just had this happen to Martin Rendell off camera on lap number 13, coming through Ravazza 2, turns into the corner, and the rear of the car let go. Did he get it stopped? No, he went into the barrier there. A gentle hit, but still a horrible one at that, so that's going to cost him plenty of time and plenty of places and speed on the straight. Not the way he's wanted to go whatsoever. But as we get closer towards the halfway point of this race, all these drivers right now, well, into their second stint, plenty of action still to kick off. But right now, the big question mark is, can Stuart Reynolds hold a comfortable lead over his sister team machine from Paddock Motorsport of Daniel Osler and Daniel Perry? Indeed, we have a top 6 right now that is very much glued together. And in fact, you could really say it's a top 8 because Niels Court and Benny Abdullahi, yes, they are not right on the back of the leaders, but what is very interesting, pace-wise, they are matching the lead pace. They're just not able to close the gap down. And that, I think, is down to the fact everyone in this group is fuel saving but pushing. Sounds contradictory, but hear me out here. They're trying to push as hard as possible, but find those little bits where they can fuel save, lift and coast into the braking zones, for example. Can't really short shift in these cars. It doesn't really help them save fuel. But I think what the problem is, because Enriched he fell back initially on the first stint to the tune of 2 seconds, whilst they have gained a bit of time in the pit lane. In fact, they've had as good a set of pit stops as the leaders. Matthias Pintelar really the anomaly in those pit stops of how long his pit stop was. Well, the problem is they can't close the gap down any further. And the slipstream off the back of these cars, it is felt out to 2 seconds, but it's really within 1 second you feel it. So what that means is, whilst Pintelar is 1.3 seconds off the back of none other than Simon Povey, who you see right now, because Povey has the draft of his teammate Guy Edwards within 7 tenths, he gets a bigger slipstream effect compared to Pintelar. So therefore, the natural gain on the straight is in favour of the McLaren driver in the slipstream rather than the Ford Mustang. Albeit the advantage is that Pintelar does have the slipstream and he has the beastly 5-litre V8 from America, the Coyote engine, which just gives him the ability to offset that straight line speed deficit, and that's why he will gradually close them down. In fact, it seems though he has got now within a whole second, and Nils Kors almost with him, and well, then it'll be Idris He there as well, as all these drivers roll the way up the hill. Meanwhile, Simon Povey's had a spin. It's gone to the barrier there, Aqua Minerale for Simon Povey, and as he's gone around, well, that's dropped him all the way down and out that lead group. Well, I think he's been able to avoid the wall just about, but of course that'll be a bruise to his momentum, and suddenly he drops down to 8th place there, 5 seconds off the top 7, and now the 6-7 Motorsport driver's got all the work to do to catch up. And how does he catch up right now, knowing he can't afford to burn too much fuel here because he needs to focus on the 2-stop, but at the same time as well he needs to find some pace somewhere, but because this has now split the field inside the top 6 to a degree, at the top 7 you could really say, and gaps now up to a second or 1.5 seconds between most of the cars, unless you're looking at Daniel Osler and Daniel Perry and Guy Edwards. They still are quite close to each other. But without further ado, we take a quick look back at what exactly happened to Simon Povey. So this was Povey coming down in towards Aqua Minerale. Car coming down nicely at first, went onto the brakes, and in the end took a little bit too much apex curve. A similar mistake there to Andy Chell much earlier on. Did roll to the bumper, but in the end it was not too much of a hit there to barrier to bumper, so I think he'll get away with that, and it's just a small amount of aerodynamic damage, but I don't think that's going to cost him any time as such on the rear of the car. But back to your live racing we come. And well, whilst it's all intensifying and it's calming down in the Pro class at the very front of the field, meanwhile in the AM class here we still do have Paul Goffin versus John Roberts. Here's part 2 of their battle. Goffin, of course, in 8th for the AM class, trying to make sure that Roberts doesn't get close enough to make a move. But Roberts right now, I think he's going to be saying I'm inevitable, because he definitely is inevitable. He closing back up once again as we ride aboard with the BMW M4 driver. I think it seems as though a lot of drivers this season have gone to the Porsche or the Mercedes, and also with a very different schedule of circuits. Well, that always does open up the door to which cars you choose, as that's a bit of a mistake there from Goffin coming out of Villeneuve. That's going to give Roberts a bit more confidence for boosting motorsport. He may just yet be able to go on the attack sooner rather than later. Coming up the hill right now, well, number 86 driver here, staying nice and close, albeit, of course, he's got to pick the right time. Does he, in fact, perhaps try to do things differently this time around? Does he try to do it on the strategy instead, with none other than Heinz Mad 2 seconds up the road? You can see him and Ollie Carbadine just off in the distance on the periphery. Well, I do wonder, because we're almost halfway, and after that, we've got about another 10 to 15 minutes before we see our second and final stops of the day. Roberts' last pit stop, it should be pointed out, was a whole second quicker than Goffin's, stationary in the pit lane. So if you do the mathematics there, based on this, he should be able to leapfrog him if he does similar next time around. So he's always got that element if he has that information to hand, and well, the team on the pit wall might be telling him right now you might want to consider fuel saving rather than pushing too hard. Albeit, of course, as a racing driver, the one thing you want to do is get your teeth sunk into a battle. You don't necessarily want to play passive, you want to play aggressive sometimes, but sometimes being a passive driver can be just as powerful. Meanwhile, in the fight for second place in the AM class, here is Nils Kula, and in fact, we've had a bit of a swap around here, I think, because Rob Sharp and Ian Anderson have caught up. It does look as though Kula's in fact had a bit of a slow run. Has he had a mistake somewhere quite recently? I think he has, because this gap has come down quite a bit. Albeit that mistake right now hasn't been prominent. No, it was a small off track, so he hasn't had anything notable we've picked up with our camera detectors and also the track sensors, but definitely Nils Kula right now has lost out a bit of time to Sharp and Anderson. They are trying to push after him here, and again, what's absolutely noticeable is that we have two very different manufacturers inside the top 4 of the AM class. Mark Johnson, the leader in an Aston Martin. 4th place, it's Ian Anderson in his own Aston Martin, and then between them, 2 Porsche Caymans. So a bit of change there with regards to machines that are proven popular. The change is always good, no doubt about it. Meanwhile, Matthias Tem, the man who, of course, had the jump start black flag, well, he served that drive-through penalty, and he's trying to drive his way through the field now, but he's got to do it the hard way. As he looks now for a move on John Roberts, this will be coming up towards Piratella. On the inside here, classic move. If he can outbrake Roberts, and then he does so, it does look as though, in fact, there, John deciding just to lift off a little bit, just save some fuel, save some brakes, and not push himself too hard, because his quandary is not Matthias Tem, it's Paul Goffin, and therefore you'll hope the Fury Sim Sport driver can prove to be a bit of a thorn in the side of the Sim Racing Magazine car, and if he can get close enough by that means, it means he will be able to save some fuel, and also he might even be able to make the move on Roberts when Tem's making the move on him as well. He might be able to follow through with the Fury Sim Sport Mercedes. Can happen, of course. But up the front of the field, the Fury Sim Sport leader right now, Stuart Reynolds. Still controlling this race, at least for now. Osler, Perry and Edwards together with him. Guy Edwards 1.2 seconds back off of Perry, so the top three are gradually through a process of accretion here, moving away. However, Guy Edwards is never too far away, and again, much like we saw from Alex Gall last season for chicane and Apex Missers, the 6-7 Racing driver in the McLaren, he really is maintaining the distance to the cars in front. He is not falling off. I think this is all part of the strategy here, just trying to do what he can to save the fuel and tyres and expecting to really push in the final stint where he might have an opportunity. Matty Wild there, he right now is going a lap down, as meanwhile we go down to the fight for 17th place, and that is Tem up the inside of Goffin, and well, in the end he dives it into the inside of turn number 2, and well, Paul Goffin in the end is going to be clear of that just before John Roberts gets close enough. So Roberts now picks up the pace here, looking for a potential opportunity, but unfortunately a bit too far back there to go for a move, so again we ride on board with him. But much like last time, these two have a... Ooh, goodness me, that's the poor run there for Paul Goffin. And well, John Roberts doesn't need to be asked twice for this, but this time it's outside at the toes of the hairpin as they come on around. Well, Goffin goes to the fence immediately there. He knows he's only got one place he can go, but Roberts, oh my good lord there, the amount of oversteer coming off of the exit of the hairpin. Well, the car was more sideways than straight off that exit curb. Roberts now, he's looking, he's poking, he's probing, but he knows he tried it once and it went a bit wrong. He doesn't want to have a grisly moment once again, albeit now as they come down the hill. He's too far back and has to settle in for the ride. Martin Rendell, he's chasing after Kim Such, and after his big moment, we had that spin, of course, at the Ravazza 2. Well, he's now trying to make his way back into the top 10 of the AM class here, taking his time in doing so. Close enough to get in the toe there of the Mercedes AMG. And Such right now, definitely not quite on the pace that we'd normally expect from him. Although, to be fair, new car for this season. I do wonder whether Kim's just trying to get acquainted with the Mercedes a bit more. Of course, plenty of practice going on in the build-up to the season opener. But understandably, doing things in anger in the live environment versus in practice are slightly different things. Indeed, a bit of mental pressure on there is when he's got to understand how the car's going to react. And no matter how many times you practice at the circuit, the conditions on the day will always be just that tiny bit different. Meanwhile, looking from him to the fellow Mercedes driver of Heinz Mayer. He now has also the Mercedes there of Matthias Tem behind him. And down the start-finish straight they go. And well, I think this is going to be a straightforward move. And in the end, Mayer stays over. And Matthias Tem flashes headlights to say thank you. And they'll go too wide down in towards the Tamburello chicane. And Matthias Tem on the inside in the end. And Mayer just backs off there right as the turning point of the apex approaches. So Heinz Mayer there letting it go at the very last moment. And we'll smart moving there. And that's going to be a change of position, albeit for them, overall, not in class. But meanwhile, Paul Goffin here, still ahead of John Roberts for now, holding on, as we have a slowdown penalty for track limits at the Villeneuve chicane for Ian Anderson. So, he wants to stay with Sharp and Cooler, but unfortunately, he is going to serve that slowdown within 30 seconds of it being awarded. Otherwise, what will happen is it will get upgraded into a stop-hold penalty in the pit lane, and nobody wants that. That's a very painful penalty. So, if he does burn it eventually, but he loses a little bit of time, it's clever how he's tried to burn it, however. What he has done is essentially burnt it by just lifting and coasting through Piratella corner. That has actually meant he's not really lost any time. He's lost about 3 tenths, but the reality is he's still in the toe of Sharp, and he's at the section of the circuit right now where the Aston Martin is quite quick versus the Porsche. But whilst we're looking at this, we have had a change between Goffin and Roberts, and this has just happened, ladies and gentlemen. Here's a replay. So this was coming in towards Villeneuve, and well, on the previous lap, it was Paul Goffin running wide, but not too much. This time, he went a lot wider, and well, John Roberts this time around said to him, right, 3 chances, you've had the ball, 3 strikes and you're out, and John Roberts makes one past that, and Goffin does not have a response, he has to let it go. So, in the end, the pressure working out for John Roberts, Paul Goffin losing out, but still both drivers, they're driving on their limit. I don't think their battle's over yet today. As we come back to your live racing, well, Matthias Pentelar, He now has Niels Core behind him, and remember that Pensalar did lose out a little bit earlier on, and suddenly now it's Mustang on Mustang here with Benedis Abdullahi a bit further back. In fact, he's now 2.5 seconds back here, and I don't think that perhaps things are quite working out for the 269 driver at the moment at least, albeit it might be a situation where because his teammates now got the toe, that's proven to be the deciding factor of their endeavours. Meanwhile, we do have here Ollie Carwadine getting very close to Ryan Penny there coming through the Tamburello chicane as Matthias Tem now has them on his hit list. And we do jump on board here with Tem as he makes way under sunny skies here in Italy and now looks to move for 15th place. But onwards he comes, and as he does so, well, what's going to be the plan? It's going to be brake very late there compared to the two in front, and then that shows you the difference. But meanwhile, whilst that's going on, we've got Rendell versus Such as they're too wide coming through at Tamburello. And, well, we can see Such going to lose out there, and Martin Rendell does make the place in the end. He moves up into 10th place now in the AM class, so another place gained for him. And, well, as we've got a car off the road there, that's Andrew Marsden who ends up coming out from behind the billboard. Indeed, a little bit shy of the Porsche's coaxed out of its hiding spots, and in the end, the number 111 driver's had a bit of a spin, and I think right now just trying to see whether the car's okay. Oh, hold up. Who's that going for a spin? That's Ryan Penny. Penny going around there at Quinarale, battling the time with Matthias Tem and Ollie Carwadine. We need to get a replay of that when we can, but he does get the car pointing in a straight line in the end and back in the right direction, most importantly. And losing out there, Ryan Penny, that's going to be a big loss for him. But let's go back and take a look back at some of those moments, starting with Martin Rendell and Kim Such. Now, this was coming down the start-finish straight here, so Rendell had a better run out of Ravazza, but he was trying to outrun a Mercedes. That's not easy. And in towards turn 2, he went outside to inside, then was the approach. And, well, initially not making it work, but Such then gave them the space to cooperate into 3 and in towards 4 there. I think Such perhaps did not feel as comfortable on that inside line for turn 4 as he would have liked to, and that just gave Rendell an extra 10th in the run towards Villeneuve that he could use to his advantage. Some good pressure work there from Martin Rendell up into 10th place in the class. We then had this big moment for Andrew Marsden. We can see him there rejoining, but what exactly went wrong in the first place? And the answer is he came in towards turns 5 and 6, took a lot of curve there at 6, the car let go, and at that point it was going around, and we did the best thing possible, which is let it roll backwards into the gravel and then gradually get it returned. We had this then for Ryan Penny shortly afterwards. This was Penny at the time, running in position, hunting down what would have been the next damn car, but a mistake there coming out at Quinarale, and Matthias Tem taking the race of action, as did Ollie Carwadine, and that explained his story of going for a spin. But as we come back to your live racing, more pit stops playing out. We've got several cars leaving the pit lane. Ian Anderson, the latest one to leave it. Martin Rendell's a bit further back. Kim Such as well. But Rendell and Such, well, which one of the two is going to be ahead of the other? There is Martin Rendell and Kim Such is behind. So Rendell is still clear. But we have had pit stops. And to show you who's pitted, we bring you up the pit stop graphic there on the timing tower. And it's those with 2 stops to their names. They're the ones who have made those stops. Excluding Matthias Tem, of course, because he did have that trip to the pit lane for the jump start he had to serve. So therefore, he is technically on 1 stop at the moment, whereas meanwhile, all the other 2 stoppers are, as they say, on a 2 stop. Matty Wild, of course, having pitted a bit earlier than everybody else right now, and I think the Ford Mustang driver here right now perhaps having to go to a 3 stop at this rate of knots. Things are not quite clicked together the way he's wanted them to, but meanwhile into the pit lane comes Mark Johnson from the lead of the AM class. Does Niels Cooler coming in? The answer is no, neither does Rob Sharp. So Johnson decides once again to go for the undercut here for the AM lead. It worked out the first time, so if it's worked once, why not do it again? Surely it'll work twice, will it not? And well, he's definitely playing on that procedure. Pinesmare all over the back here for Andy Chell as they're heading towards the end of their second stints, and there's Johnson and Roberts. Sorry, it's going to be John Roberts into the pit lane as well. Roberts had a very good second stint, to be fair, so he's been fighting his way up the order. Ryan Penny's also in. I think that's a good idea after his spin there. He'll want to get the fast repair on the car and also get those tyres cooled down if he's going to run the same set of tyres to the end of the race. But as we do see Chell and Mayer staying together, meanwhile here is Mark Johnson making his exodus out the pit lane. There's his final pit stop complete. It's a decent stop, 21 seconds, a bit longer than his first stop, but he hasn't had anybody to work with in the second stint, so therefore I think he's had to put all the fuel in the car on the basis of he's going to have to use more to get to the end of the race, unscathed on fuel capacity. But here comes John Roberts down pit lane. And meanwhile, who's that coming through? That is Jules Gardner, so therefore Gardner, who has yet to make his second stop, well, in fact, he's going to be now making his way on around 9. Another stop is coming. coming. Where's Heinz Mad? There is Mad, so this is going to be close here. And in fact, John Roberts, he comes on down. He's not far behind Heinz Mad. Mayer has made the jump there on Roberts in the pit to get back ahead and open up the gap back up to 1.5 seconds. So that's a change of position. And Heinz Mad now into 7th place in the AM class here. Roberts losing out, but of course, we still got pit stops to come. So we don't exactly know where everyone is until the end of the pit window. The good news is they're all starting to come in. There is the mass queue of leaders right now making the end. Does anybody go an extra lap if they dare? And the answer seems to be no. Nobody has got the fuel to do so. So therefore they push the fuel tanks as hard as they can, but it means the final stint is going to be just excited at all the stints we've had so far, because it will be packs of cars all together. Nils Kula comes through Rabatza 2. He's been Rob Sharp with him. Sharp, in fact, has a much better lap. I wonder if Kula's had to do some extra fuel saving on this one. When he comes to pit limiter line and takes it nice and easy. Rob Sharp is a bit more aggressive on pit entry there. But what's happening at the pit lane on the exit? Well, Stuart Reynolds there leads, but look at the gap between Reynolds and Usler. Of course, it is more pronounced right now, and it will expand slightly on pit lane exit due to the delay time of each car having to come off the pit limiter. But Stuart Reynolds, well, that gap has been eradicated. It was a 1 second faster pit stop for Daniel Osler, and suddenly we are back with a top 3 all fighting in position all the way to the very end. So this podium, it seems to be consistent of Stuart Reynolds, Daniel Osler and Daniel Perry, arguably all sister team drivers, but who's going to be in what spot? That is the question we're needing to answer. Guy Edwards has lost him a little bit, but he's still ahead of Matthias Pentelar, and it's Nils Gore a bit further behind, ahead of Ben Idris Abdullahi. But further back, well, Mark Johnson's just gone on through the camera shot there as your AM leader. Rob Sharp has jumped Nils Kuhler in the pit lane, so Kuhler's lost out there as they make the way up to speed. Matthias Tem leaves the pits now. He continues to make some good progress here with the pit stops, and Ollie Carwadine, meanwhile, he's leaving with what is Paul Goffin a bit further behind. In fact, he's just inched ahead of Goffin as a result of the pit stop, so just holding on position. But there's Heinz Mayer coming on through. Where's John Roberts? There's Roberts as well. He's going to get back ahead of Paul Goffin, but he's going to be right behind Carwadine coming in towards turn number 2. So suddenly, the fight to be in the top 5 of the AM class is blown wide open, and Ollie Carwadine here struggling. He's got to get those tyres back up to temperature. Coming through Tamburello right now. He's going to need a whole lap to do this. This is not comfortable at all. But meanwhile, Aquinarali, there's been a spin for Nils Core. So Core falls down the order. He's lost out there for Aquinarali. Not an expected mistake there. He doesn't normally make mistakes like that, but that's a big one. But from him, we come back to the fight for 5th place in the AM class, 15th overall. And Carwadine right now with Roberts and Goffin right behind him. And these two drivers, well, you can understand if Carwadine right now is going to have the most pressure of everybody, because he's been doing so well holding on to that 5th place. He qualified there in the AM class, full 15th overall as well, and right now he just wants to hold on. He really has delivered a solid drive, but of course Key Money is essentially now buying time for Heinz Mayer, and if Mayer can really get his head down here, well, unfortunately, somebody's got to be the sacrificial pawn in the team's race sometimes, and Ollie Carwadine today is definitely going to be the number 2 driver, making sure that nobody gets to Heinz Mayer at this rate. Well, I don't think they planned it like that, I can assure you that, but that's the way this is now looking, unless Roberts now finds his match in the form of Carwadine, because he's definitely been able to pass Paul Goffin both on strategy and on circuit. As we also have Ian Anderson on the back of this group, and how about that? Ian Anderson's second pit stop, 34 seconds. That would mean probably he's changed all 4 tyres on the car, if I had to guess. So Anderson's decided that he needs a fresh set of tyres to get to the end of this race, feeling confident. Well, he's going to have the best car out there in terms of the quartet that we're looking at, but he's got to get those tyres used as quickly as possible, because the problem is the longer he spends behind these cars now, more heat will be placed onto the front tyres because of the dirty air, and that will gradually erode the effectiveness of the fresh tyre, something that he can't afford to lose. As he heads down the start-finish straight here, we ride on board the dash camera of number 455 drive from Scotland, and we're coming in towards turn number 2 right now, thinking about an opportunity, but it's not going to quite work there given how far back he is. But of course, here through the chicanes, that's where the Porsche is the quicker car on the optimum lap, but it's on these acceleration zones, that's where the Aston Martin able to close the gap just a little bit more. That's exactly what Anderson's going to be hoping for here. He can hope that he can bring it down, but bring it down in a way that isn't going to cost him too much time when he tries to go for that 7th place. Your leaders, meanwhile, there is Reynolds ahead of Osler and Perry as they come down the hill. Gap to Guy Edwards now 3.2 seconds, but Edwards has got Pentelar right behind him. I think Matthias Pentelar is thinking about the move already. As we look back from the rear of the 6-7 McLaren and come through at turn number 15, we'll roll the way onwards. I can see right now that Guy Edwards here, a good exit out the bend to be fair, not feeling as much pressure as he perhaps would be. That Ford Mustang now, well, here it comes, the growling V8, naturally aspirated of course, and more aspirations going high here for Matthias Pentelar, but which way does he go? And he's going to look up the inside in towards turn number 2, and Edwards decides to go to the outside there, seeing if he can outbrake the Mustang. It's not going to work, and Matthias Pentelar moves up into 4th place. Now, the only other theory we do have here, and the fact that Edwards decided to play quite peaceful with this, as he gets a much better exit out of Tamburello, is in the fact, could he need to do some fuel saving here and be hoping that Pentelar's the quicker driver? Well, not when they go into Tamburello like that. It looked like Edwards, in fact, was the much faster driver by comparison, and well, therefore, the number 7 driver right now, I wonder, in reflection, where he might be thinking to himself, should I have actually defended that harder, because it hasn't worked out? We'll have to wait and see, but of course, Pentelar now ahead, and well, the two not fighting for a brief moment. Can they settle in? Meanwhile, here's Mark Johnson. He's trying to make his way into 9th place, chasing after Chris Jennings. And remember the fact that right now, every point he accrues matters in the overall championship. And indeed, he might want to try and dethrone a few pros over the course of the season. Johnson's got that pace to do so as they come past our camera here at Tosa Hairpin. Right now, Johnson just staying with the man in front of him, at least for the time being. But a bit further down the order, we do have Matty Wild here in a battle with none other than Jules Gardner. These two fighting over 12th place in the AM class. They may be heading towards a lap down, with the leaders only about 15 seconds behind them at the moment. But to be fair, as Wild comes into the pit lane, that is for a 3rd pit stop here. So definitely today, fuel has been the limiting factor for Matty Wild. And well, I think he's going to look back on this one and ask himself the question, how exactly has everybody else done the 2-stop when I've had to do 3? And the answer is that they've been doing a lot of fuel saving out there, even by the lonesome. But as Rob Sharp heads over the crest here, he's still got Niels Cooler for company, and whilst Mark Johnson is 9 seconds clear of this pair, the battle for 2nd place in the AM class definitely right now has not left the race. It's still right there. Albeit Sharp getting the jump in the pit lane. I think he'll be absolutely chuffed with that one. He does love a good bit of strategy. Well, right now Niels Cooler's got to try and find a way to get back on the attack. With not long left in this race, we've got less than a quarter to go now. Your leader, Stuart Reynolds, still holding on, albeit Austin and Perry with him for the ride. And it's definitely looking as though this is going to be one of those battles whereby it could come down to mistakes. And speaking of mistakes, well, Stuart Reynolds has picked up a slowdown. He serves it in towards Tosa Hairpin. Also dives up the inside. You don't need to ask that man twice, but Reynolds immediately now goes back with the attack as we ride on board here with the Fury Supersport #1 car. And well, it was a slowdown in the first place that gave Austin the lead of the race in the first stint. And now it's happened again. Is that going to be it here? Well, we've not got any more pit stops to go on this one. This is now all about getting to the end on what fuel you've got, the tyres you've got, and then seeing that checker flag if you can. But as they come down for in towards Aqua Minerale, well, Stuart Reynolds right now definitely looking bold, brash and aggressive here, and not driving angry necessarily, but driving with understeer there. That's another mistake for Stuart Reynolds, and as he gets himself up to speed here, it's that same mistake on the first, and it wasn't a slowdown, it was there out of Aqua Minerale, and suddenly Daniel Perry's right there. Well, Reynolds right now definitely feeling a little bit rattled, albeit everyone does get rattled every so often. But Daniel Perry not close enough there to really capitalise, but I think he's now thinking to himself, and in fact, what will be the team of Paddock Motorsport is thinking, if we can just upset Reynolds a little bit more, if we can get into his head, we can make this a 1-2 here today at the start of the perfect start to the season. Well, of course, it's one thing to theorise it, it's another thing to actually pull it off in practice, but we will see what they can do. Meanwhile, further back, John Roberts still leading the hunt for 6th place. Ahead of Ian Anderson and Paul Goffin in the AM class, 16th overall. But these three drivers still nose to tail as they come on down. We do have, by the way, a black flag for Andy Marsden. That is for, I believe, instant points. So he has got a drive-through penalty that he'll need to serve in the next 3 laps. I think he'll have enough time to serve that. It won't become a post-race time penalty. But as they do make their way up the hill, the drivers we're looking at right now, a better run out of the Aqua Minerale sequence there for Ian Anderson. But in the end, pulls out the toe. He's going to try and get a nose in there in towards Alta. Doesn't work out, but I think that was all about seeing whether he could get into Roberts' head and get him to outbrake himself, thinking that what was going to be Anderson was just going to try and stick a nose in there where he couldn't really get a nose in. And of course, these drivers used to respectful racing, so therefore they'll know when moves aren't on what exactly is right and what is wrong. But right now, Ian Anderson trying to be a little bit cheeky about it. There's nothing wrong with that, to be fair. That's all about trying to psych out your rival. When it works, it looks spectacular, I can tell you that. What's also looking spectacular right now is that our leader in terms of the top 3, Daniel Osler's pulling away. Stuart Reynolds has Daniel Perry even closer this time. 10 minutes left right now, and Stuart Reynolds definitely looks as though he's trying to juggle 2 Porsches, one in front, one behind. It was a lot easier when they were both behind him, but meanwhile, no longer behind John Roberts is Ian Anderson as he dives up the inside there into turns 1 and 2, makes the move, and that's up into 6th place in the AM class. And right now, Paul Goffin's looking at us and thinking, hey, why can't I do that as well? And well, the Aston Martin, they're having a little bit more leg work on the straight with, of course, its V8 turbo supplemented Mercedes engine. Meanwhile, Paul Goffin, by comparison with the Porsche engine, he just goes a little bit too aggressive there. Oh no, it goes wrong. Roberts is into the barrier, goes spinning out of the chicane, and for John Roberts, that might might be it for this race for him. If he can get the car turned around, we'll have to wait and see if the damage is too much. But right now for John Roberts, it is a damaged car. He has been told it needs to come in for repair work. So for John Roberts, that could be it. We'll get a replay of that very shortly, but he gets caught out. But meanwhile, we're not going to miss this for a second, because we're seeing Daniel Oster now under pressure from Stuart Reynolds. And well, Daniel Perry seems to have given Reynolds the motivation to push back here. And Oster's going to go defensive in towards Tamburello. But looking from outside to inside, that's not going to work. Immediately, Oster covers him off. And Daniel Perry here watching this from behind. But coming through turn number 4. These drivers right now all pushing each other down towards turns 5 and 6. What we can see is the Paddock Motorsport driver here. For as much as he wants to be part of this fight, he's more having to play the game of the popcorn seat view here. He's playing the third-party spectator. But this isn't necessarily a bad thing, to be fair, because if the top two start to take each other off the road, he can get one, if not both places. As we do see there, Reynolds looking around the outside to inside, and Oster just simply parks on the apex and says, yes, I've seen that one before. Do something I haven't seen. And we'll come in up the hill now. Reynolds is going to go to the inside here, in towards Piratello. Is he not? No, he's not. As they get a little bit of traffic in front of them in the form of Andy Chell. So the Quatermass Motorsport driver will see the blue flags. He pulls aside immediately there, lets the top 3 go. Great awareness from him. He doesn't want any part to play in that. Indeed, right now, I think all 3 drivers will be coming over and having a word with him. But to be fair to Andy, if there's one thing he's good at obeying the rules. And, well, meanwhile, we've got Nils Kula and Matthias Tem fighting side by side here, going through the Villeneuve chicane. And Tem trying to take that 12th place off of Kula. That's going to cost Kula time. And then Kula goes a bit deep under braking there. In the end, Tem has to go all the way around the outside. They're still too wide on exit. And, well, to be fair, they're both giving each other racing room. Although Tem did have to open up the steering wheel there at the last minute. I think he wanted to turn in, and Sonny realised that Porsche isn't stopping where it should be. And, well, Kula did not do that by accident as they roll the way through in towards what is Piratella. But in the end, Tem goes around the outside and gets the job done there. But brilliant battle between them, and our Amazon Pros absolutely mixing it up. And Kula's not done yet. He tries to come back then towards Aqua Minerale. He almost does get side by side there through 9 to 10. And well, he even gets a good exit off the corner, but a bit of power oversteer there. And unfortunately, that's going to curb his momentum just about. But meanwhile, back to the front of the field just in time as they come down in towards the Tamburello chicane and roll the way left, right, left this time. Well, Daniel Oster still planted himself right in the way of that Mercedes. I mean, they're getting so close at this point right now. You would think that it's going to be bumper to bumper before too long. And well, 7 minutes remaining. We're on lap number 29, and coming onto this one, it means that if my mental mathematics is correct, we've got another 3 to go. So therefore, this is all going to come down to fine margins here as we get a nice faithful view there of Reynolds' livery. But coming up the hill through turn number 7, Oster parks on the apex there, and Reynolds, he tries to go for it, but it's not enough of an exit. That Mercedes has got so much exit power, but the problem is that Oster right now is just proven to be too obstinate an object. And coming through Piratello, well, you can see he's literally carrying every mile an hour more Reynolds compared to Oster, and Daniel Perry's right on the back of this. He's being swarmed by the 2 Porsche Caymans here. It's like a little pack of ants they are. And meanwhile, as they try to bring down the big beast, the number 1 in front of them, Daniel Perry, who we ride on board with here, well, the problem he's got is the fact that right now he's really relying on Oster trying to have to defend it to give him a chance. Well, coming up in towards the Alta chicane, Perry here comes in quite hot, but again, Oster there really parking Reynolds up. And what Oster's trying to do here is back Reynolds into Perry enough so that way his teammate can get ahead and really make it a 2-way fight for second place. Obviously, they want the 1-2 here at Paddock Motorsport, but Oster wants some breathing room. Now, if Perry thinks about it, he could potentially go for a lunge under braking. He has got the better brakes by a small margin versus that Mercedes, but when we say better brakes, we're talking about the fact he can probably brake up to sometimes 5 meters later in the heaviest of braking zones compared to that Mercedes. It's not lunge territory, albeit if he can get close up, he will go for it, but that's where the whole play out here of Oster versus Reynolds is so significant. But on to 3 laps in the finish they go, on to lap 30. This time, Reynolds a little bit closer, but again, he's not close enough to get fully alongside in towards the opening chicane, so he has to wait his turn. But with the waiting, well, in terms of our battles going on, there's no others out on circuit right now, so we will stay transfixed to this fight just for now at least. We do have the replay, of course, what happened to John Roberts, but we are not going to cut to that whilst this fight is going on, so we might have to wait for that. We might not see that until the end of today, if at all. But right now it's Oster, Reynolds and Perry stayed together. Well, at any moment, one small mistake and this lead could fall out of the 314's hands. Alternatively, it could be gifted to it on a silver platter if Reynolds was to make an error or Perry was able to find a way through. But we do see there the slow running machinery of none other than Jules Gardner, who steps aside, so he decides he does not want to be in the way. Well, fair play to him, given the blue flags. He does have to respect them, albeit the blue flags, of course, saying that the lead lap car has to make the overtake on the car that's putting a lap down, and the car that's going a lap down needs to to drive predictably. These are not Formula 1 blue flags, so they need to move aside. Drivers are welcome to, but they must do so predictably. That is the key part. But onwards they go, and towards the auto chicane, and this time, well, this battle does just take a bit of a breather as a hop, skip and jump the way between the corners. But Daniel Perry, well, if Reynolds is not getting close enough here, and Perry staying equidistant in the meantime, watching on. Matthias Pentelar, meanwhile, he was half a second quicker on that previous lap, but unfortunately on this lap, he's now actually around 2 tenths slower by comparison. So the fact this fighting has stopped has really stopped Pentelar being able to gain any more time. As they drift away out there, all three drivers running wide onto the gravel, but Perry the most so. Well, a small mistake there, but the next time he does it, he won't want to add to that mistake, because if he does, well, it could prove to be an absolute pivotal one. On to it was the penultimate lap of racing potentially. We are very close to getting an extra lap in on top of the 2 we think we've got left, ladies and gentlemen. This could be a 32-lap race. It may squeeze a 33rd lap in. If we get a 33rd lap, that's going to lead a lot of questions with regards to who's got enough fuel to get to the end of the race, and if so, are we going to Sunny C cars splutter to the finish line? Well, not so. If we do, it's going to create an absolutely crazy conclusion, no doubt about it. But Daniel Osler right now, as the cloud comes over here, well, no cloud has come over his day so far, and he'll be hoping it stays that way, rolling his way out through Tosa Bend. But Stuart Reynolds here regrouping. I think he's now getting ready for the next attack. But what is the next attack plan? What can he do different to what he's been trying to do? The answer, well, he does seem to be much more committed to these low speed corner exits now. I think that's what he's winding the car up to do. And well, through Piratella here, all being even, he's not really going to gain or lose out as the push. In front, they're pretty equal. Into Wales, Aqua Minerale here. This is one of these sections where he might be able to get the better launch. But into the pit lane as comes Heinz Matt and Ian Anderson. They have not got enough fuel to get to the end. As I look at my Conte booth window, so splash and dash for them. But meanwhile, here's the dash up to the inside into Alta. We thought it was going to Aqua Minerale, and here it is. But Stuart Reynolds is going to go for the move on the inside. And as he comes up through, he does take the lead of the race. What a move from Stuart Reynolds there. He only needed one chance, and in the number 1, he's done it. Albeit now Osler's going to try and come back at him. They've got 1 more lap to go, perhaps 2, we'll have to see. Indeed, right now it is so marginal here, and whether we've got 2 or 1 left, we will only know when they cross the line and whether we see a white flag waving. We're going for turns 14 and 15, with Reynolds retaking the lead there. Well, Osler just not the run out of Aqua Minerale, and that was the difference. But onwards they come, and as they do, where's their white flag waving there as they come to line? And the answer is no. We are getting a 33rd lap. This puts us now into the territory whereby, because of the fact we were only 5 seconds ahead of the timer, well, understand me now, some drivers will be probably looking at some thinking, are we seriously doing a 33rd lap? Because if so, are the fuel gauges looking dry? Well, once we do get a brief breather from that battle, we quickly take a look back at what exactly happened to John Roberts. And this was Roberts earlier on, of course, when he was battling with Ian Anderson and also there Paul Goffin. But as he came on through the Villeneuve chicane, went to the exit curb, and, well, the car just completely let go on the rear end. And that was his story to the barrier. Unfortunately, had to tow after that. We then did have this for Ryan Penny shortly afterwards. And this was Penny coming down the hill in towards Aqua Minerale. And it does seem as though something went a bit wrong there under braking. Went a bit deep initially. And as a result, took some grass on the left-hand side tyres. And that spun him sideways. But then, here was the big moment. It was the moment that Stuart Reynolds found his way past Daniel Osler out Aqua Minerale. Had the better run up the hill. And as he made his way over the rise there, where it was too wide in towards the chicane, got himself right in there at the most important part. And under braking, well, that camera says it all. Just managed to sneak his way through as we head back to your live racing. But as we do, of course, 1 more lap to come. We're just going to squeeze in 1 extra one here as we do see a car stepping aside. That is the machinery of Kim Such saying, I don't want to be part of this game. And understanding the number 29 driver there, moving aside. Martin Rendell is in the pit lane for fuel. That's going to be a splash and dash as well. So a few drivers have been forced out to the free stop, but 20 seconds left to go. Well, there was no white flag waving, so we are presuming this is not the final lap. If Sunny is the final lap, well, that's going to be a shock to the system there. But 15 seconds left on the clock. We believe we are going the extra lap here. Yes, we are. So there is the white flag. That's your confirmation. 1 more tour of the Imola Grand Prix circuit today. And as they come on through, the circuit named after, of course, both Father Enzo and his son Dino from Ferrari, the legendary man and the son who wasn't able to live the life that was promised. Well, as we do see Stuart Reynolds here leading right now. Can Daniel Osler, Daniel Perry, the 2 Paddock Motorsport cars, find a way to chisel away the win from Stuart Reynolds? Or will the Fury Simsport driver, the defending champion, open up his season on the perfect count of pole position and the win? Well, we're only now 13 corners away from seeing whether that's true or not. But As we do see Mark Johnson, meanwhile, your AM leader, he's into the pits, is Johnson. No, surely not. He's not going to lose the lead of the AM class of the final lap. Here comes Rob Sharp. Sharp's not coming in. Sharp's going to take the winner in the AM class at this rate. Johnson did not predict we were going to go a 33rd lap. It is drama in the AM class then. Is Nils Kula going on? Yes, he is. So as he carries on, what about Carwadine? Well, he's a bit further back here. He may not be in touching distance. That podium may not be possible. But as Mark Johnson brings himself up to speed, he's dropped to third. Carwadine right now is still coming out of Ravatsa 2, so he won't be able to get ahead of Johnson. But Johnson right now will be staring at what will be the bottom end of the podium, not the top of it. It is complete upheaval here in the AM class. And, well, right now, is anybody else going to be running out of fuel right at the end? Well, here we see Benajis Abdullahi. He's got Nils Core close to him. I think right now, the two Satellite Racing drivers here, they might be swapping places. It looks like the Mercedes is low on fuel. But coming back to leaders, as they make the way down the hill into Ravatsa for the final time today. Watson and Perry here, they're too far back at this point. I don't think they've got any more in the tank, but to be fair, this is only one round of 8, so therefore, they've still got plenty more rounds to come. But meanwhile, they make the way out the final quarters with Stuart Reynolds for a defending champion. He's already been put through his paces here today, but after 60 minutes of race and 33 laps at Imola, Stuart Reynolds gets his season off to the perfect start as defending champion by winning at Imola by only 3/4 of a second over Daniel Osler, and Daniel Perry doubles it up on the podium for Paddock Motorsport on their debut, and it'll be Matthias Pentelar fighting through to a 4th place finish ahead of Guy Edwards and Nils Core, who come through there. There's Edwards firstly, and then Nils Core spluttering to the finish line here. He is just going to make it for 6th place by looks of things, as he's crept ahead of his teammate Benajis Abdullahi. He will take 6th, but I think here the Satellite Racing car, it's not good enough. It's run out of fuel. Can he get to the line? I think Simon Povey's going to steal this away from him right at the end. There's Chris Jennings coming up behind. Jennings is flying right now, and as they come through, Jennings snatches 7th place and he gains 2 places at the line. Where's Matthias Terminal? This where here he is right now. He's going to finish in 10th place. It's all pros in the top 10, and then Rob Sharp, he's going to take the AM victory here. It all seems set for Mark Johnson, but in the end, Johnson didn't have the fuel. Sharp will bring on home the AM win, his first in his career, ahead of Nils Kula, who'll come home on his debut in 2nd in the AM class, 12th overall. What a drive from him, and it is going to be Mark Johnson coming on through in the end, and he will just about take home 3rd place in the AM class. But again, strategy has struck back the Aston Martin driver, and well, everything went right on circuit, but not in the fuel tank, as Ollie Carwadine holds on to 4th in the AM class ahead of Paul Goffin. That's a season best performance there of Carwadine in terms of all his racing seasons together. I mean, the career best is the word we should really be saying there. Paul Goffin doing very well to take 5th. And then Heinz Smash struggling to align here. I think he's run low on fuel. And Ian Anderson right now can see it. And immediately Anderson says, right, I'm having that. And he's going to take 16th and win at 6th place in the AM class in his debut. And he's been one to watch out for today. He has been very quick in spaces. But meanwhile, Heinz Smash will struggle across the line, taking 17th for the end. Unfortunate to lose that place at the finish. And then we will see Ryan Penny be your last finisher on the lead lap, ahead of what will be the lap down car of Martin Rendell and also none other than Jules Gardner. And we've also had a lap down to Andy Chell and Kim Sarch and to Matty Wald and John Roberts, and 9 laps down unfortunately to Andrew Marsden. But as we do see Ryan Penny come to line there, he'll be happy with the 8th place in the AM class. Some good points to start off his campaign. But Matthew Luke Media says Fury Simsport taking all the podium positions. Indeed, you'd be correct. It's all Fury Simsport cars, but do keep in mind we have 2 Fury Simsport teams. We have Fury Simsport and we also do have Paddock Motorsport. That's Daniel Osler and Daniel Perry is Paddock Motorsport there, but they are running the Fury liveries. But as all the giants come down, I'm amazed that some of these cars have still got fuel to do a cool-down lap, let alone finish the race. But somehow Guy Edwards proves he's got the fuel, and perhaps that's all part of the plan of overfueling the car a little bit on that 2nd pit stop to make sure it could get there if a 33rd lap arrived. But RB, ladies and gentlemen, what a conclusion and an incredible end and a shock one. But of course, the biggest shock of the all was this very moment when Mark Johnson had to make his way into pit lane, and this was the deciding factor in the AM class, as he thought it was all over in 32 laps, but it wasn't to be. And as he had to make the way into the pit lane for the fuel, Rob Sharp meanwhile knew at this point it was victory that awaited him so long as he could survive one final lap. But with that, we make our way back to your circuit side pictures, and indeed, we take a look back at the race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. And after an absolutely entertaining 60 minutes of racing action for our season opener in Season 8 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge, brought to you on iRacing and proudly powered by Oris Digital, Stuart Reynolds took victory in the end overall by what was only 3/4 of a second over Daniel Osler, and Daniel Perry round off the podium there. But it was 3/4 of a second from driver to driver there, but what a battle between the Fury Simsport Championship defendant and Paddock Motorsports pair of debutantes, and in the end it all came down to minor margins. Matthias Penslar took 4th place there for RD Simsport, and given the way it started and the fact he was shuffled to the back of the top 7 as a result of fuel strategy to finish 4th in the end, he'll be pleased with that, the Flying Finn, ahead of Guy Edwards there, the 6-7 Motorsport driver who showed a lot of promise in the McLaren today, but the McLaren in the end didn't quite have enough to challenge for the podium, but I suspect we'll see him going for the podium as the season goes on. The Britain was then followed up by Niels Court in 6th place there for Satellite Racing, and for Niels, unfortunately, not quite the result he wanted, losing the pack early on at the end of the first stint, and that really dictated the flow of his race, but he was still ahead of Chris Jennings there for Axis Simsport, who in the end was the best part of 12 seconds behind. Of course, for Jennings, it was a surprise to finish 7th when he was looking to finish 9th, but he was able to steal the places from Simon Povey and Ben Idris Abdullahi right at the end. And bringing on home was at 7th place. He had the fuel, whereas the others did not. And behind the 6-7 Motorsport and Satellite Racing drivers was Matthias Tem, who completed your top 10. And the Fury Simsport driver, of course, after the jump start, as was decided by the iRacing stewarding system, where he recovered well, and to finish in the top 10 and clear all the AM drivers, that in itself is an achievement. And of course, he'll want more next time out. That is not representative of what he brought to the table today. Rob Sharp, the winner in the AM class, 11th overall there for a Bathurst race, and he won't believe it, and I wonder if we're going to get an interview of him afterwards. We'd love to hear his thoughts on how that ended, with Niels Kooler taking the run-up spot in AM, 12th there for Axis Simsport, and then Mark Johnson. What a gut wrench into the race. A perfect race from a drive perspective, and normally the bad luck has been that the car he's driving has bitten him in the backside at some point, but the Aston Martin didn't do that for Track Mouse Racing. Instead, the fuel tank said, you're not going a 33rd lap, and that's where it went wrong for the 88 driver. Ryan Worthy's Ollie Carwadine, well, what a drive from him to take 14th, his best result of his career, ahead of Paul Goffin for SRM, and then we did see Ian Anderson there on his debut, really pushing hard on the 16th place, perhaps not where you thought it would be, but he'll be hoping for a top 15 next time out. Heinz Matt and Ryan Penny were your last lead lap finishers there, 17th and 18th, and it was a lap down to Martin Rendell and Jules Gardner. And mine, the Sim Racing Magazine driver, in 21st, it was Andy Chelt ahead of Kim Such, Matty Wild and John Roberts, and in the end it was 10 laps down to Andrew Marston, who unfortunately will black flag, went to the pit lane there, and I do believe the car stayed in the pits for the remainder of the race. But then coming to the AM class finishing positions, because of course we do have an AM championship and points are awarded in this class specifically, and we can see Rob Sharp will take the winner's points for Bathurst Racing, his first ever AM win. He took a couple of podiums in Season 7, and those he was proud of, but he's going to be exceptionally proud of the fact he's taken his maiden AM win here today in the season opener. The Bathurst Racing drive was followed up there by 13 seconds by Niels Kooler for Axis Simsport, who in the end did a brilliant job to take 2nd place, albeit he had to conserve the fuel on the final lap, but he made it home, and just ahead of Mark Johnson there on the Track Mouse Racing drive, in the end having to give up the win in order to make sure he could finish the race, unfortunately, but still, more rounds to come, and I'm sure we're going to see an AM win from him sooner rather than later. Ollie Carwadine, his best ever result in AM class as well. 4th there for Rowan Worthy, and 5 seconds behind the podium. Next time, could it be a podium for him? Paul Goffin was only at 4 tenths behind at the finish, but the SRM drive couldn't close him down. And Ian Anderson there, one to watch out for. Indeed, the See You Next Tuesday machinery from Scotland, flying high in the 455. We'll be hoping for even more in round number 2. Heinz Mayer took 7th there for Rowan Worthy. He looked quick in the early stages, but fell back as time went on, but he was still ahead of Ryan Penny. The Oris Racing drive the last lead lap finish of the AMs. There was a lap down to Martin Rendell and Jules Gardner, with Martin Rendell definitely being the driver to watch out for as well. He looked very quick, the privateer, but unfortunately a mid-race incident cost him dear at the Villeneuve chicane. Andy Chell then lent for Quatermass Motorsport, definitely putting some good performance today, ahead of Kim Such, and then Matty Wild unfortunately forced onto a free-stop strategy, and that's what sent him a lap down in the early stages, ahead of John Roberts there for Boosted Motorsport, with that late spin at the Villeneuve chicane, seeing him toe to the pits, and then it of course was the retirement for Andrew Marsden there for Sim Racing Magazine. But you can see Free Me UK, or Free M UK, I do believe that says, saying great race there, giving it 3 thumbs up, or in fact plenty of thumbs up there, and we're with you on that one. Definitely a superb race. And the great news is, of course, we have still got plenty more to come on this broadcast day, because whilst the race has concluded, we've got some interviews coming up, so don't go anywhere, because in approximately 5 minutes time we'll be back for our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers, and it'll definitely be insightful to hear what they've got to say about the racing in round number 1 of the championship. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's jump straight into our first post-round interviews of the season. And we're going to kick it off with a man who's taken his first and win of his career here at Sim Racing Magazine. Who's joining me now in the interview room is none other than Rob Sharp. Good evening to you, Rob. And well, how's that for your first round of racing in Season 8? Your first ever AM win. You must be absolutely ecstatic.
Absolutely, and rather surprised as well because, all through that race I was looking ahead and thinking, well, Mark's just taken off and gone into the distance, and then suddenly he was behind. So, yeah, a bit of a surprise, but I am, I'm made up because it's my first ever win, so fantastic.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely made up for it. And of course, we'll dissect that a bit more later because very late drama. But let's come back to the very beginning. Now, we saw you on the grid in Season 7 and you put together some absolutely brilliant podium finishes. They're constantly chasing top fives, not the podium in the AM class. Had you set yourself any goals going into this season?
Well, I knew it was possible to be, up there again. But of course, we've got new drivers this season as well. So, it's... I try not to set goals because all you can do is be a bit disappointed when they don't come true. So it was just, my usual sort of race the race and see what happens.
Oh, fair play. A good way to approach it, particularly like you say when we've got new blood on the grid. And in qualifying, 13th overall, 3rd in class. I mean, a respectable qualifying performance, although it did look as though Mark Johnson was just a little bit out of reach, but perhaps that second place was reachable.
Yeah, I think so. In practice, I did a couple of 49s, and I thought, well, that's good for up there first or second maybe, but I couldn't do that and just couldn't do it in qualifying. Whether it's the pressure or maybe the track conditions had changed, but I didn't manage to put a lap together. But I was happy with where I finished, Paul. That was good. Yeah, it was a nice place to be, really. A little less pressure, and just work my way from there.
Oh, indeed, I completely agree with you on that. A bit less pressure and just be able to work your way forward. Now, we did see in the early stage of the race, really, yourself and Nils Kula were going to be very much focused on each other. Mark Johnson was just able to gradually walk away with his pace advantage. But, I mean, you had plenty of fun battling with Nils. It wasn't just on the circuit, it was also on strategy as well.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? And Ian Anderson was behind us as well. We were kind of like tied together for, basically 2/3 of the race. I knew that fuel was going to be tight, so I just had to drive to my strategy. I didn't really want to take risks trying to squeeze past Niels because he was quick. So I thought the best thing for me is to just sit behind him and save a little bit of fuel.
Well, smart approach there. Save the fuel, particularly when fuel is so tight as we did see it today. A lot of drivers struggling to make the two-stop work, but you were one of the drivers who did make it work. Now, as the race went on, of course, we're getting towards the later stages here. Was there an actual crossing over point where you started to think to yourself, are we doing a 33rd or a 32nd lap? Do I now need to make sure I'm ahead of Nils on track? I can't afford to keep saving fuel behind him. Just take us through the mental state you have to go through as the race gets towards the end.
Well, I knew the only place I could pass him really, and unless he made a mistake, and he didn't make many mistakes at all race, was in the pits. So that first and second stint, particularly on the second stint, I was trying to conserve as much fuel, and I just hoped that I could get in and out of the pits fractionally in front of Niels. And surprisingly, that worked. And I emerged from the pits just in front and managed to hold on to that.
Well, it just worked out right at the end there, no doubt about it. A very nice conclusion to what was your race in terms of strategy, but still had to hold on. And at that point, putting you thinking to yourself, right, I've got second, I've beaten him. And then suddenly, going on to the final lap, Mark Johnson's in the pit lane.
Yeah, I was completely taken by surprise. It was only halfway around the final lap that I thought, how come Mark's in third? What's going on? He's 2 cars behind me. And then I thought, I wonder, he's either had an incident or it's fuel, and because I knew fuel was tight. And he was up like a scalded cat, he was away up the road from us. So maybe he just burnt a little bit too much. I don't know.
Oh, indeed, it was unfortunate for Mark. But for yourself, fortune came in handy, and in the end, a first AM win of your career. I mean, the first one's always a special one, and in this one, doing everything right to earn it. You must be pleased.
I'm very, very pleased. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's. Well, I kind of didn't imagine I would get one, so I'm very happy to have got one in the bank. Brilliant.
I mean, we're absolutely pleased for you as well. And of course, this is just the start of the season. Today, we've been at Imola. In 2 weeks' time, we make our way to America for the Long Beach Street Circuit. What's your plan there?
I'm on holiday, so I won't be there, unfortunately. So I'm going to miss that round. What a nightmare! I know it's a great start, and then I'm going to have to miss a round, but I expect to be around for all the remaining ones.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, that's a perfect way to be able to send yourself on a holiday, to turn up on the grid in round number one, take a win, obviously have a breather, but you're refreshed, and then we'll see you coming back in what will be 4 weeks' time for our third round, and none other than the VIR circuit. But just before we do let you go, Rob, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to on the broadcast?
Just my wife for giving me the time and space to do all this stuff, and yourselves in the broadcast booth, and the rest of the organisers. It makes this series a really great one to take part in.
Oh, fair play, Rob. I mean, it's all the better for seeing you on the grid, giving it a go. And we're so happy for you to take your first AM win of your career, and indeed the first AM win of the season. Congratulations once again, well deserved. We hope you have a lovely time away on holiday, and we will see you in 4 weeks' time for the Virginia International Raceway.
Thanks very much, Paul. Bye bye now.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from none other than Rob Sharp for Bathurst Racing. And well, what a day today. But I really like the mentality he's coming to this season with, of course. Just saying there, giving us fresh blood on the grid, plus also returning veterans. You can't really predict what's going to happen. Just take it as it goes. And he's done exactly that. And well, he had an absolutely brilliant race-long battle between himself and Niels Keuler. Of course, did have the involvement as well of none other than Ian Anderson. And we did see, as you see in the pictures here, Anderson really on his heels early on in the race, but then the gap started to spread as time went on, and strategy played an increasingly important part. Albeit, in the end, he was able to jump over Niels Keuler on strategy. Admitted there that was the only way he was going to beat him, he felt. And he got that done. And then, of course, going on to the final lap, discovering that Mark Johnson losing the lead because he didn't have enough fuel to do the final lap. And, well, it really just opened up the doorway for a first win for Rob Sharp. It's crazy to think, though. He takes the win and then he goes on holiday, but he will be back at VIR. And a bit of a break might really be the thing that tops this off now. To think to himself, he's got that big tick in the box done. And when he comes back, could he return to winning ways immediately? We'll find out then, ladies and gentlemen. But of course, in terms of what we've got to find out immediately, who's next up in the interview room? Well, we've only got about 10 seconds before we find out. We'll be right back. And so, now joining me in the interview room, ladies and gentlemen, another AM driver and a newcomer to the grid today. It's none other than Andy Chell, who now joins me in the interview room. Good evening to you, Andy. It's good to see you here. And, well, a solid debut from yourself in the 11th in the AM class. Some good points.
Yeah, hi, Paul. Yeah, actually a lot better than I was expecting, to be honest with you, as I haven't been in the Aston for a very, very long time. So, yeah, it's gone quite well tonight.
Oh, fantastic. And I've got to ask, why did you pick the Aston Martin?
Honestly, it's because I don't like the Porsche, if I'm honest with you. So it was, at Quatermass, we usually have cars that we've got designated. We had the Cayman designated, but I do not like it at all. I just don't know what it is. I don't get on with it, which, considering how I get on with the 992, is quite unusual. And this was the secondary option that we have for people that don't enjoy the primary option. So in the Aston, it was for me. And I mean, I drive the Aston GT3 quite a bit as well. So it is a big step. It is a step. It's not like it isn't. But yeah, it just seemed like hopefully it wouldn't be too much of a transition from what I know with the GT3 down to the GT4, which thankfully not as much as a big step, but not as much as I was thinking it might be if I'd have gone with something like the Mercedes. So yeah, it was the Vantage was the one to go for, really.
Oh, indeed. It seemed to be quite a sensible pick for yourself, and you looked comfortable in the car. In qualifying, we saw you qualify 23rd, 13th in class. but it seems as though every lap you're able to put together, you were finding more time out there.
Yeah, like I say, it's not a car I've had a lot of time to get practicing with, to be honest, with how work's been and things like that. So it was very much I was getting more and more confident in it. I was starting to work out where I can drive it the way that I would the GT3 cars that I'm used to, and where I've got to readjust, maybe braking a little bit earlier, just because of even though you'd expect the braking to be similar, they're really not. So it was just relearning, relearning and tweaking where I apply skills to it, just to get it so that I was getting more comfortable with the car. Overall, I was happy to be in the 51s, given how fast everybody else was. So yeah, it was just one of them learning experiences for a track I know quite well. I think a lot of people know Imola quite well. So it was just, like I say, getting used to how the car performed around the track, which took a little longer than I expected. I'm not going to lie to you.
Oh, fair play. Well, of course, going from qualifying to the race, 60 minutes of racing, and we did see over the distance, whilst there were a couple of mistakes, many, yourself included, also some good little battles out there. And, well, we got to see some moments, for example, where you were able to take places back from Andrew Marsden. How did it feel over the race distance? Because, of course, a 60-minute race where the strategy today was the two-stop, but there was this balancing act of being able to push versus fuel save.
Yeah, it was quite an interesting one. I'm not going to lie, I had Mike in my ear all the way through. So though I forget Mike, but Mike Barber, who's another team member at Quatermass, who, if he isn't racing, is always my crew chief. As I say, he's my GP to Verstappen sort of thing. So we were having the conversation all the way through around refuel saving, not fuel saving. The first stint, we were under by 0.2 litres, I think it was, to get the extra lap in. So we just readjusted that, and that was the aim for us, really. To be fair, it was very much the fuel save versus over attacking. And yeah, the mistake early on wasn't ideal, because I think it dropped us down a few places that maybe if we hadn't to drop, we'd have been, in that top 10 fight for the AM class, which kind of where I'm targeting, being new to the series and new to everybody around. So yeah, it's a little bit of a disappointment there, but again, it was just a little too early on the throttle out of Aqua Minerale, and the car lazily span itself around. So a little bit of a learning curve there as well, to just remember car doesn't necessarily react the way the GT3 does when it's cold. So but yeah, like I say, Mike was calling the strategy. I was just trying to hit the fuel numbers he was giving me. And yeah, I was just saying to the guys in the cool down room, actually, to be fair, when they came past, the whole fuel saving thing went out the window, because now we got a lap's worth of fuel that we'd saved we didn't need anymore. So, but yeah, it was good fun. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, fantastic. Glad to hear you enjoyed yourself, and glad to hear you had Mike on the wall and giving you the advice on the amount of fuel every step of the way as well. It's always good to have a teammate up on that wall acting as your strategist / crew chief. But of course, this has been the first round of many this season. And next time out, in 2 weeks' time, we make our way to the US of A for the Long Beach Street Circuit. What's the plan there?
Very similar, to be honest with you. I mean, it's a very different track, very different different requirements with it. It's a very tight track, so it's going to be staying out of trouble. I know managed it here, but Imola's an easier track to stay out of trouble than Long Beach is, so that's going to be the main aim. Stay out of trouble, see where we get, and hopefully start edging ourselves back up towards that. Like I say, I want top 10, and then we can aim higher if we're starting to hit that, but we'll see how we get on.
Oh, indeed, step by step, and indeed, we look forward to seeing you trying to make your way into the AM Top 10 and moving on from there. And, well, Andy, just before I do let you go, I'd normally at this point ask you if you were to give someone a shout-out, but we're going to go down the route here. You were saying only moments ago about adjusting from driving a GT3 to a GT4. If somebody wanted to do that adjustment right now, what would be your bit of advice for them?
My main advice is don't overdrive the car. Don't expect it to be stable where you would expect the GT3, and always at first just get used to it. You think, for example, turn one at here at Imola, for example, in the GT3, you'd be braking 150, 125, depending on how confident you are on the brakes, after the run-in on the right-hand side. If you know the track, you'll know the track. You'll know where I'm talking about. You'll be braking early there, dropping it down and turning it in. With the GT4s, you can't do that. I tried. That was my issue, was getting out of that habit. And my advice would be extend your braking zones by a good 50 meters or so, maybe even 100 meters first, to get used to where your braking performance is within the car. And then on exit, don't power on as quick, just because, again, it's the thing to remember with the GT4 cars is, even though it's a GT4 car, it is still a road car that's just had extras added in to allow it to perform on track. It's not like a purpose-built race car, which is what the GT3s are. So yeah, it's scale back and just remember that it's not going to drive as a race car. You've got to treat it as a production car that's just going to be that step faster. So yeah, that'd be mine. Is just take it easy at first and just get used to where the car's telling you, and listen to the car. The car will tell you if it's understeering a lot, you are sending it in too fast. If it's squealing on exit again, if it's starting to snap, you're powering down too early. So yeah, it's just about learning where you can push and just take it easy at first, so you can then go up to the edge instead of running straight past the edge at first and dropping off the cliff, sort of thing. So that'd be my advice anyway.
Oh, fair play, Andy. Appreciate the insights there. Take it easy and build up. I think many can learn from that. But with that, we'll leave it there for now. Congratulations, Day, on enjoying a solid start to your season. Some good points for length in the AM class, and we look forward to plenty more at Long Beach in 2 weeks' time. But until then, my friend, have a lovely rest of your evening.
Andrew Metty, thank you very much.
So here and there from Andy Chell, ladies and gentlemen, the Quatermass Motorsport driver, are really getting to grips. Normally having raced GT3s, of course, so taking a step from GT3 to GT4, and we're talking about having to acclimatise. It's interesting to hear there about needing to race the Aston Martin or the Porsche. Doesn't enjoy the Porsche Cayman, so therefore the plan B car at Quatermass Motorsport is the Aston Martin V8 Vantage, and well, learning all its strengths and weaknesses. Albeit also learning after that qualifying session where time was constantly coming, that in the race, once this car goes, well, it behaves a bit differently when you've got to try and get it back under control. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but what did work out was the fact that he was able, in the end, by falling a lap down, not to have to worry as much about the fuel, but enjoying the format and enjoying the racing, and hoping as the season goes on, the results improve and move forward. And I'm certain they definitely will for him. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've got another interview to come. Well, in fact, we've got a bit of a bumper interview, albeit we're not going to exactly say what's going to happen, but just bear with us for about 10 seconds, and we will be back for our final interview of the day. Well, when I say bumper interview, ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking to 3 drivers at once now, because they all join me in the interview room. They all come in together. We have got here your 3 podium finishers from today overall. Stuart Reynolds, Daniel Ostler, and Daniel Perry. And, well, good evening to you all, gentlemen. What a race that was between the trio. And, well, they normally say ladies first, but none of you are a lady here, so we go to defending champions first. Stuart, how was that having to keep all the 2 Daniels?
Hard work. They were a lot quicker than I was expecting, because they were been testing all week and moaning about me being quicker, but they've got some pace tonight.
All fair play. And looking to yourself, Dan Perry, firstly, both of you, of course, racing, whilst you're racing in Fury Simsport liveries, racing as part of the Paddock Motorsport team, you've both gone for the Porsche this season. Why is that?
I don't know, to be honest. At least I can speak for myself that it's just my personal preference of a car. I like the later nose, though I can really sort of trail it into the corners when under braking. So for me, it's just a comfortable car to drive on the limit, sort of lap after lap.
And for your teammate Daniel?
It's a case of, it was the first car that I got when I started racing GT4. And I guess the confidence is just built in this car. It may not be the best at times. It really struggles in a straight line, but it's molded to my driving style. So yeah, I've just enjoyed it so much to decide to go for it for this season.
All fair play. And of course, Stuart, sticking with your much coveted Mercedes, I mean, was there a temptation to switch car? Or was it sort of, no, this car got me the Season 7 Championship, we're going with it once again?
Yeah, I'd stick with it. It's a car that I really like to drive. I did try the Porsche, but I couldn't drive it on the limit like I can with the Merc.
Oh, fair play. Now, of course, choice is a car, well, that's one thing. Qualifying, another. I mean, Stuart, we saw you put together an absolute behemoth of a lap to start with, but coming to yourself, Daniel, and I'm going to say Daniel for Daniel Osler here and Dan for Dan Perry. Coming to yourself, Daniel, you were very close to taking that pole, 1.5 tenths off in the end. Where was the time?
I mean, I really struggled in the final two sectors, all through kind of warm up, and then into qualifying. He just had such a good line and stability through the chicane and through the race that kind of showed as well. But yeah, I was very, very happy to be on the front row and to be as close as I was.
Oh, fair play to you. Well, close, but Stuart in dominating the qualifying session just about. But as we went green flag racing, I mean, obviously you guys know each other, but was there any sort of perhaps informal plan between you? Or is it just whoever leads into the opening corner leads, and then after that, just all pandemonium plays out? I mean, we'll come to yourself, Dan Perry.
There was no rules. That was just the three of us racing each other out and out. Well, I suppose the only rule was don't take each other out, of course, as we are unofficially teammates. But yeah, no, there was no gentleman's agreement, no rules. We were racing.
Oh, fair play. I mean, it was brilliant racing. And well, the first real shred where we got to some side-by-side. I mean, Stuart, you've got a reputation for not making mistakes, but Aquamarala twice today catching you out, and both times giving Daniel Osler an opportunity to make a pass on you.
Yeah, I've always struggled with that corner. Don't know what it is about it, but it just catches me out quite often. And yeah, it let me down today, but produced some good racing for the spectators.
Oh, 100%. Although I do have to think, coming to Daniel, every time you saw the opportunity, we noticed your Porsche so quick through the corners, but the Mercedes much faster than the straights. Was it one of those, as soon as an opportunity arose, you just had to take it?
Yeah, I mean, the opportunities were few and far between. So if there was a slowdown, if he went wide a little bit, I had to kind of go for it. Unfortunately, my own mistakes kind of cost me a little bit. But we were so close at the end. It was amazing racing.
Oh, 100%. It was absolutely incredible racing. And coming to, obviously, yourself, Dan, what we did get to see is whilst Daniel and Stuart were constantly fighting at the front, you seemed to be player number 3 in the battle, and you did, in the first stint, actually have to keep Guy Edwards and Simon Povey behind. Did you feel as though that had sort of become your role, just to be the guy on the outside waiting to see if you could find a move towards the end? Because no matter how close they got, you were always within 4 attempts just watching.
Yeah, it was a tricky one. Obviously, Dan and Stu, very, very quick sim races, so I couldn't really put a touch to them in the race today. I was very pleased, to be honest, to be sort of sat in their toe, and that's probably the reason why I stayed with them. It's unfortunate. I think Matthias Penteler had a mistake in his first pit stop, which got us both past him. If that didn't happen, then I'm sure he would have been in the mix with us as well, which would have made it a little bit more interesting. But no, really, P3 was probably the best I could have hoped for today. These guys have just got a touch more than I do right now in the car.
Or fair play. But then staying with yourself, I mean, today, for a place, a very valiant effort. We have another 7 rounds to go. If there was one round where you think you're going to be the guy who wins the race, which one is it?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I mean, personally, from my sort of real world racing experience, I very much sort of favour the tight and twisty tracks. This is more of a GP circuit, so maybe Long Beach I'll come off a bit better. I don't mind being on the edge, and I don't mind getting close to the walls. So for me, that's going to be my target. It's probably try Long Beach.
Or fair play. And then coming to yourself, Daniel, which circuit or circuits will you be the one to watch out for there, do you think?
I kind of haven't really thought about it as much. I'm just kind of taking it track at a time and doing the best I can at each.
Oh, fair play. Then slightly changing the question for you, perhaps. Long Beach, what's the plan there? Is it a circuit you're comfortable with?
I do really enjoy Long Beach. The corners really work for the Porsche, but the two straights, well, three straights really. The Mercedes is just really, really tough to keep up with, as well as the Mustangs. So we'll see when we get there. Hopefully, we can be competitive and give it a good go.
Well, brilliant. We'd definitely love to see you both give it a go to take on this man because, Stuart, coming to yourself, I mean, obviously, you know, winning the championship takes 8 rounds. You took on Alex Gale last season. It came down to the wire. Long Beach next time out, the walls be looming large, but will the Mercedes be the one to conquer them?
It might hit it. I don't know about conquer them. No, I love Long Beach, so I will definitely be trying to win that one as well. Yeah, fighting Alex Gale last year took a good chunk of concentration, shall we say, to beat him, and also Matthias Pentelau as well, because he was chopping at the bit through the halfway mark of the season. They both put up a very good fight. It's a shame Alex isn't racing this season because it could have been quite a good season this time out.
Oh, 100%. A shame he's not here, but still, you've got plenty of competition through from your two sister team drivers. And of course, we also did have plenty to watch out for further down the order with Edwards and Povey, for example, and also Matthias Tem, who never really got to go racing as a result of a black flag right at the start. But, gentlemen, as I do get ready to let you go, one by one I do ask, starting with yourself, Stuart, is there anyone you'd like to give a mention or a shout out to?
Just Fury, Paddock Motorsport as well, and Abruzzi.
Well, fair play. And then coming to yourself, Daniel, is there anyone you'd like to add to that list at all?
Nobody to add. I think Fury, we've done so well this week, and we should all be very proud. I'm happy for him.
And then coming to yourself, Dan Perry, I mean, I would ask you if there's anyone else you'd want to give a shout out. Surely you've got a family member who might be watching right now.
Not to be honest, but I can add to the list. Obviously, I'm going to shout out Matthias. It was unfortunate for him today. He really should have been up there with us. I mean, maybe next time we can get 4 cars in the top 4. That'd be a huge target and a huge accomplishment if we can do it. And then otherwise, obviously, I'll shout out to my real world racing team with JTM Engineering. Obviously, we're racing GT4 cars this season in the GT Cup Championship, so I'm really looking forward to that. And racing with these guys here is some really good competition to get me ready for it. So I'm looking forward to the rest of this season and the rest of the real world season.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we wish you the best luck in the real world season as much as wish you all the best luck on the ongoing season here. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview. Congratulations on being our podium finishers today. You've given us plenty of entertainment. Long may it continue at Long Beach. But until then, have a great rest of your evening.
Take care, Paul.
Thank you.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from our trio, indeed, a group interview there with our 3 podium finishers today of Stuart Reynolds, Daniel Osler and Daniel Perry. And we're all having their own unique perspectives. Very interesting to hear there. Firstly, Stuart Reynolds saying about the fact and he was pushed every step of the way here by his 2 teammates, sister team drivers. And, well, we got to see as a result there, the fact the pressure was on every step of the way, but staying with his Mercedes there and just managing the race. From Daniel Osler, talking about the fact that whenever Stuart made there, he had to go for the moves there because there weren't too many opportunities to go for them. And that's why we did see him really seize upon it. And we also did hear there from Daniel Perry, who was saying about the fact that really playing the third party. However, it wasn't because he was necessarily able to sit there and watch. The 2 in front, he felt of Osler and Reynolds were quicker, and that was the pace he could bring to stay with them. And very interesting there, because what it really does show right now, at least at Imola, when it was Reynolds and Osler were the quickest, and Perry was really player number 3 in the game, but next time out Long Beach, it could be entirely different. And, well, don't forget the fact that we had several drivers today who were also in the lead group early on, including Guy Edwards and Simon Povey, and also, of course, we did have the fact we never got to see Matthias Tem get involved due to his jump start, and we also saw difficulty for Niels Court and Ben Idris Abdullahi, who couldn't stay with them. So there are plenty of actors, and you've just heard from the 3 that really made up centre stage today, but Long Beach we could be talking to a very different set of podium finishers. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews, and let's give you a recap of who we've spoken to this evening. And as we can see, we've had 5 interviews today, albeit broken up into 3 blocks. Firstly, we heard from Rob Sharp by himself at Ouroboros Racing, celebrating his maiden win in his AM Championship campaign. Indeed, his time as an AM in the series over 2 seasons. And what a day it's been for him today. When everything fell apart for others, he got it absolutely right on strategy and on track. We then heard from Andy Chell for Quatermass Motorsport, debutant in the AM class, and talking about his experiences of transitioning from a GT3 to a GT4 and his learning and how he's developing as time goes on. And then we heard from your 3 pros who made up the podium today, first, second and third, in that order. Stuart Reynolds for Fury Simsport and the Paddock Motorsport pair, Daniel Osler and Daniel Perry, all together in the interview and for group interview. Thank you to them all for joining me for an interview this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we look forward to plenty more from all of our guys and girls on the grid, week in, week out, as we make our way into our future rounds. But with that, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to get on the grid, well, the good news is there is space for you. You can join mid-season here at the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge, and well, to get on the grid, all we need to do is join the official Discord, invite link available on screen. And if you do join, we'll be pointed in the right direction quite quickly, and we would be very happy to have you, whether you're an esports professional all the way through to a rookie in a GT4 machine. There's no better time to get on the grid at Sim Racing Magazine. We'd also like to say a big thank you to our series sponsor, of course, our title sponsor being none other than Oris Digital. And well, if you didn't know, small teams can make a huge impact in the digital marketing and e-commerce space, and Oris Digital knows that best. With 20 years of collective experience in growing businesses through online marketing channels via the provision of services including affiliate management, Amazon marketing, and digital strategy, Oris Digital delivers tangible results to its clients. And if you'd like to know more about how Oris Digital can help grow your business, be sure to head to their website today at www.oris.digital. But with that, we'd also like to take a moment to say a shout out to our series partners, the first of which is Ouroboros Watch. One of our drivers, Rob Sharp, runs Ouroboros Watch, which designs and markets watch faces for smartwatches running Google's Wear OS. This SRM-themed watch face, as you see on screen, is available on the Google Play Store by just searching for GT4C. It features a pitboard that includes your race position, which improves as you near your step target for the day, a racetrack with selectable colours for each sector, and the trademark SRM branding along with other useful information such as heart rate, so you can manage your excitement level in the next SRM race. And if you'd like to know more about Ouroboros Watch's watch faces for smart watches, why not head to their website at www.ouroboros.com. And we'd also like to give a shout out to our new series partner for this season, that is of course Roam Worthy. And buying the perfect caravan, motorhome or camper van can be an activity which leaves you going around in circles, but not with Roam Worthy. Built by technology people who love the road, Roamworthy provides you with the tools you need to put yourself in the fast lane to buying the caravan, motorhome or camper van which meets your requirements via a website that is packed with real stock and no pushy sales personnel. So if you'd like to know more, be sure to head to their website of www.roamworthy.co.uk today. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, well, that's all we've got time for today, and now we look ahead to next time. And in 2 weeks' time, we make our way to the US of A for what is formerly known as the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach, but more formally known in some other respects as the Long Beach Street Circuit, a circuit that's played host to Formula 1, the IMSA Sports Car Championship, and for our season, playing host to GT4 Racing. Well, the walls of the Californian streets will be calling, but who exactly is going to answer the call with victory in the overall and AM classes? In today's racing, we have seen that it's very tight at the top, and Stuart Reynolds, the defending champion, was able to hold off the 2 Daniels just about there, as the Paddock Motorsport drivers have definitely got their fangs, and they're bearing them thick for the Fury Simsport leader. Meanwhile, in the AM class, it was a surprise first win of the season for none other than Rob Sharp, but can he make it 2 from 2 next time, or will Mark Johnson finally take that AM win that's escaped him for so long? Well, all that and more, come tune in on Tuesday the 17th of March 2026 as we continue the story of the season. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, you've been tuning in to the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge Season 8. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. You've been watching a Paul Walsh production, and until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night.